Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back for an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us in studio, he is your coach. He is my coach. He is the senior sports editor of the ODPH podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Duffy.
Ken, I'm sorry. There's a flag on the play for your introduction there. You fumbled it a little bit, and it's an incomplete pass. Flag down on the play.
Oh, man. Well, that being said, folks, we're going to have to examine that and go to instant replay. But definitely, we want you to join in on that conversation on our social media accounts. You can find all of that and so much more at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. But for this sports edition of the ODPH, there's one.
This just in from Gene's territory. It's a non-reviewable play.
Oh, damn it, man. Well, Pad, you want to take this segment over then?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to start off talking about the biggest game of the week, the one everyone's calendar you had circled, the biggest, arguably, TV event of the entire year, at least here in the States. I can't speak for overseas. There's probably bigger overseas. But that being Super Bowl 45 taking place from Tampa Bay, Florida, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, home game, first team in NFL history to play a game in their home stadium. And I say stadium because there have been teams to play in their home state, but none of them were in their actual stadium. We all took the Kansas City Chiefs, much like a lot of the country. If you look at some of the numbers coming out from what the sports books made, because holy shit. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played upset and won by the final score of 31-9. Tom Brady, 21 of 29 for 201 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Patrick Mahomes, 26 of 49 for 270 yards passing, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Coach, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, a couple things initially off the bat. Boy, did Tampa Bay have a great game plan defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, they really just dialed it in. It was Booger McFarland with Steve Young during the ESPN broadcast that said something that I was like, wow, Booger, that's a fucking impressive point. And what he talked about was how Tampa Bay just played, not cover 2. Well, yeah, it was cover 2, but it was, man-to-man underneath cover 2, where they kept 2 safeties high and they dared Kansas City to dink and dump and, just take what they could. And instead, Kansas City kept trying to stretch the field, and try and throw deep routes.
Right.
Instead of just, continuing to do what they could have done, which was Kelsey underneath, Tyreek Hill underneath. They kept trying to stretch the field, and it played right into Tampa Bay's defense because with those long dropbacks, that defensive line absolutely obliterated the already decimated Kansas City offensive line, and JPP and that defensive line just played lights out. And then my next thing was the NFL and the officiating crew that was working that game was a travesty.
Yeah,
I don't want to take anything away from Tampa Bay because they played their asses off, and all the credit in the world to them. But I mean, there's 2 plays in particular that I was just like. Well, 3 really that I just couldn't believe. The offsides on the 4th and 5 on the field goal, where they showed the replay and you just couldn't see the offside alignment. The pass interference in the end zone on Tyrann Mathieu, which was I mean, I don't know what happened to the uncatchable ball, but that needs to come back. Because that ball was sailed over Gronk's head. No way he was going to catch that. And then the other play was there was a pass interference call early in the first quarter.
Yeah, with Ward, right?
Yeah, that kind of started the temperament for what this game was going to be. And the thing that was crazy to me was, so the flag got thrown late. And I was like, oh, it's going to be pass interference. I didn't see it, but I guess they saw something. And then they called holding after the ball went over the Tampa Bay wide receiver's head. And for those who watch football, normally defensive holding is thrown, the flag is thrown within the first 5 yards. That's a call that you throw right away because it is in that immediate 5-yard distance that they give the corners the ability to bump and run a little bit. And instead, the play's over, the pass is incomplete, they throw the flag, and I'm like, it has to be pass interference. And it was defensive holding, and I'm like, that's not the right call. So that was a red flag early on for me. And then obviously, Kansas City kicked too many field goals. You can't kick field goals and win games.
To your point, because I saw this tweet on Sunday, but I didn't save it, so I had to dig it up there for a minute. To your point about the offsides on the 4th and 5, the field goal or whatever the hell it was, Bill Barnwell, who, according to his bio on Twitter, works for ESPN, tweeted, quote, "Was Mikael Hardman offsides on the field goal? Who can be sure?" Now, I can't obviously show you the folks at home, but I can show you these guys. I don't know where he got it from, but this appears to be the lineup, and if that graphic is to be believed, yeah, he was a little offsides. So, but at the time looking at it, I was like, yo, that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
I will agree with Coach. The officiating on this was just god-awful. There were a bunch of calls they made on Kansas City that they didn't call on Tampa Bay, and just back and forth. It was just I have to agree with for Pittsburgh former coach on
Bill Cowher.
Thank you. What Cowher said. They were throwing the flag way too much. Just let him play, let him go. If it's something real egregious, real obvious. There was the one hold call that they made where I'm like, it wasn't as bad as one of the previous games where it was like, they got their jersey yanked out, 5 feet or something I'm like, all right, that's pretty obvious. But this one didn't agree with it. But I mean, you got to give Tampa Bay their due. They dialed up a great game plan. They shut down the Hydra offense, and let's face it, I think I spent more time waiting to sneeze all of last week than Patrick Mahomes had time to throw. Now, obviously, that was because he had a bunch of injuries on their offensive line, but I digress. I think we can all file our taxes in a faster amount of time, in more amount of time than Patrick Mahomes had to throw.
Couple takeaways I had from this. One, the officiating, they called an extremely tight game. Like, I'm not saying good, but I just say...
Yeah.
I mean, on one side.
But they were very focused on the Kansas City team. Now, I don't know why exactly... And I'm just kind of
sure.
Yeah.
The penalties they were calling, I only had an issue with 2 of them. Really, I was like, okay, this is a bit of a stretch. The pass interference with Ward, I thought was egregious.
Was that? And so, are you talking the interception one? Because I was talking the obviously the defensive holding that they called. The defensive holding that I thought was pass interference, and that was early in the game.
For those of you who didn't keep track, Kansas City committed 11 accepted penalties for 120 yards.
Fuck.
Tampa Bay committed 4 accepted penalties for 39 yards.
Because the one that I think is the interception. That's the one that you're talking about. And that was, I mean, it's all coincidental contact. I mean, it's just the defensive back has the right to the space.
That was the one thing. I was like, okay, this is really ticky-tacky. I was just like, I see where you're calling it, but I wouldn't have. This is just like you're really focusing on Kansas City for whatever reason, and it just kind of seemed like, okay, they're doing a lot of penalties that they're coming off very aggressive, which is Steve Spagnuolo's defense.
Right. Yeah.
But it was like, okay, the amount that you're calling them, you're really watching for every little thing.
But I mean, you can't say that Tampa Bay's secondary wasn't playing the same way the other way.
I agree. No, I agree with
you.
No,
I know you are. I'm just saying, I'm venting my frustration because as I was watching this game, I had no vested interest. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw one person, because I was browsing Reddit during the game, where somebody commented on the NFL subreddits game thread they had going, where somebody goes, "Oh, Kansas City always plays like this, and it's about time they got called on these penalties." And I'm thinking, all right, that may be true that they always play like this, but if they're playing one way and it's called one way, it should stay that way. If we're playing baseball and I'm throwing a pitch and it's going just inside of where the technical strike zone is, that should be a ball every single time. We shouldn't get into the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, and all of a sudden, you know what? I've been calling that a ball all night. That's all of a sudden going to start being a strike because I feel like it.
And that Reddit user that brought that up, I'd hate to tell him, but I mean, if Bill Belichick and the mind games that he plays all the time with teams hasn't brought it up before, then you're just calling shit, as you're probably a Raiders fan.
Oh my God! If it was think about this, if it was the Patriots in the Super Bowl, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the opposing team got 11 penalties. Can you imagine the outrage?
It would be a public outcry.
But I mean, but I'm saying like the Belichick game would be like going into a game against Kansas
Yeah.
City.
Oh, yeah.
You know, man, we just have to watch for their corners because they play very physical, almost to the point where they hold you. That's
yeah.
the type of shit Belichick would do. So if it was a problem, somebody would have said something sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that you got to really kind of take away is Tampa Bay was getting a lot of their defense to impose their will without any repercussions. Like, it was just kind of odd for me to see because the refereeing of this game, I didn't have the issue with the calls they made, but I did have an issue that it didn't feel like it was both-sided.
Yeah,
that's my big takeaway.
I mean, I share the same sentiment as, you know, what you just read. It's like, it's the championship game. Like, swallow the flag a little bit. You know what I mean?
Let him play.
I mean, the Tyrann Mathieu in the end zone with the uncatchable ball is fucking egregious. Like, not only did that save that drive and put them on the goal line with, 9 seconds left to go and no timeouts, mind you, so they could just walk in and score. It basically that helped them at halftime, and then Tyrann. And so now you're sitting here and you're like, that's pass interference, but the ball sailed into the crowd on the back line, on the end zone line. And you're calling that pass interference? Like, come on, it's in the end zone. Like, there's grabbing, there's all sorts of shit going on in the end zone like that.
My brother played football in youth football, middle school, and in through high school. He goes, you do not want. He's told me before. He goes, you do not want to know what goes on the bottom of that pile. It is not fun. So that's true for the bottom of a pile. That's true for a lot of the game. My issue with this game, and maybe I just bought into too much of the hype and too much of this, but this was billed, and I know I told you this, Ken. This was billed as, Brady versus Mahomes, young GOAT versus old GOAT, greatest matchup of all time, possibly the last time we were going to see this. To use wrestling terms, this was built up as John Cena versus The Rock. This was built up as The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. Hogan versus Macho Man. You know what we got instead? We got Goldberg versus The Rock back at WrestleMania 20.
Yeah, it was one of those situations that this game didn't live up to the hype.
Because sorry to jump back in. Even if Brady won, okay, fine, cool. It is what it is. I wouldn't have cared and wouldn't have been upset about the game if it would have been closer.
Well, that's a good point you bring up, Pat, because this was so hyped up that this was going to be Mahomes taking the torch from Brady. Everybody was really running with it. Or could Brady do it one more time? And for the refereeing in this game, like I said, I had no issue with the Kansas City calls. It just seemed that they were calling them very often. And on the flip side, Tampa Bay did not get that many called in the first half, if at all.
Right.
And the big story I even posted on social media was the story of the first half is the Kansas City penalties, 7 called, 80 yards.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost a football field.
Yeah. And I mean, especially the other story was you just look at Matthew's body language going into the half and just how pissed he was. And I'm like, they're going to have issues coming back from this.
Well, the fact that he got very emotional, like I understand from a player aspect, like you still got to keep.
And Dad, don't even the Tom Brady. So I retweeted that video when Tyrann Mathieu got the unsportsmanlike conduct. Brady fucking ran him down to talk shit in his face.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here. And I know it's like the second guy always gets caught, but how much bullshit is that? You mean to tell me that Brady went out of his way to chase down a player, to chirp in his ear, and when he turns around and points a finger at him, then he's the one that gets flagged?
Well, there was the other instance where I forget what the penalty was. I want to say it was maybe like unsportsmanlike conduct or something with one of the Kansas City defensive guys.
Yeah, it was called earlier in the night, yeah.
Where he got shoved 2 or 3 times.
Oh, it was the defensive lineman, yeah.
Fell to the ground, got up, pushed him back after getting shoved through that flag on Kansas City. I'm like, come on, really?
Well, like I say, the officiating crew, you hate to have this be a story, but it is.
Well, we're taking. I know I opened this can of worms myself, but Tampa Bay's game plan was flawless.
Like I said, you just hate to have this lingering over the game. And that's what I'm going with this.
It would have been lingering over the game, I think, if it was closer.
Oh, if it was closer, it was a 3-point difference. Yeah, it would be a whole different. Like everybody would be talking about it. Kansas City would be having a more stronger argument. But at the end of the day, though. They got punched in the mouth by Byron Leftwich's game plan because he absolutely drew up something with Brady.
Travel back in time 15 years ago and tell me that's going to happen. I'll say you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
Well, the offensive game plan was good. I think the problem is too is that I don't know what Spagnuolo was thinking, if he thought this was going to be the same old New England offense.
I think he did.
You know, New England 2.0, where he was going to be able to get pressure on Brady, because the offensive line obviously is probably one of the better offensive lines that Brady's had, and the wide receiver talent is better than what he's had previously. So you can't chalk up the same game plan and be like, all right, we're going to get pressure with our down 4 and we're going to drop everybody back, because that doesn't work. Now, on the flip side of it, defensively, that and what the Jets coach
Todd Bowles,
dialed up was fantastic, because the cover 2, the drop in the safeties back, which Kansas City wasn't prepared for, and unfortunately, Bellamy and Mahomes' inability to say, all right, we need to start checking down a little bit and maybe get the run game going was a huge problem, because their commitment to, all right, we're going to be flashy and we're going to try and do these three score drives. Steve Young even said it too when that same segment with Booger. You have to just take what the defense gives you sometimes.
Exactly.
And if it's a 10-play drive that chews up 7 to 8 minutes of the clock, then that's the drive that you got to do. You have to be able to adapt. And when you don't do that and you continue to do the same thing, then you're not going to be successful.
Mark Ingram brought that up at one point during the game. I think the Players Tribune, or somebody retweeted him, because you're looking at the stats, Mahomes attempted 49 passes. Total number of carries for the Kansas City offense, 17.
And, I mean, that's not their game, though. And I get that. Like, I know they're not going to be the Ravens. They're not first, second down. They're not going to, all right, it's, or Derrick, it's not Tennessee. And for Derrick Henry, it's not going to be, all right, it's first and 10, run up the right. All right, it's 2nd and 7, run up the left. All right, it's 3rd and 4. We'll throw.
Right, but you would think that at some point, because it was pretty evident early on that Mahomes wasn't going to get any time to do anything with passes, that they would have said, all right, listen, we know we got this game plan, but we can't get the pass going. Let's throw in a few run plays.
Well, and then what that does is play action. In the play action game then makes the linebackers have to respect that, to the point where you can set up time for Mahomes to get outside the pocket, maybe on a bootleg or something like that, and throw the ball, when instead it was, all right, we're just going to straight drop back, and he just didn't have time.
Yeah, they just did not adapt to what the defense gave him. Like, I didn't understand why Mahomes was so in love with throwing downfield so much.
I mean, it's not so much him as it is the play call. It's the design.
But I'm just saying he should be smart enough to figure that out at the line and go, okay, Tyreek Hill has been double covered all game. So is Travis Kelce. I need somebody else to do something.
Well, Kelce was 10 for 133.
Right.
So Kelce was open.
Right, he was getting open, but most of that was second half, though.
Sure, and that's true, too.
And the game was out of hand. But this is where early in the game, okay, you try running the ball, which I thought was something they haven't done previously in the playoffs. Okay, it's not working. But you know that the defense is giving you about 10 yards per se for somebody to do a slant cut over the middle. Take advantage of that. Why are you not doing screen passes? Like, I guess what I'm saying is, for Ben-Ami, this was a complete misfire, in my opinion. And
they were running, it was weird because they were doing a lot of the Alabama motions, and I was like, oh, okay, they're going to start getting, because, again, the as great as Mahomes is, it's because he gets the ball in the playmaker's hands.
Right.
So, when I started to see the Alabama motion, I know I know they weren't the ones to create it, but it's just fresh in my mind. So I'm going to call it that. And what I mean by the Alabama motion is when they bring a wide receiver from, split out wide and then motion him into the backfield and then motion him back out. That I thought they were going to do a lot of swing passes. I thought we'd see maybe some more bubble screens. And they kept trying to throw deep, and it was a problem.
It was a problem that they just did not hit the reset quick enough. I think if they did early, then they would have been in better shape. Not necessarily saying they were going to win, but they would have been a lot better than what they wound up going.
They might have been able to they might have gotten a touchdown instead of kicking 3 field goals.
Yeah, because once they did the 3rd field goal, it was like, this is a wrap.
Oh, yeah.
That Mahomes, I mean, I'll grant it, he played his heart out. And I know that he was hurt.
Put it on the line in this game.
Yeah, he did everything he physically could to win.
That fucking throw when he was getting tackled and was literally 90 degrees off the field and threw a dime to Tyreek Hill.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know people are already saying it, so I'm not, I'm just bringing up old news, but that's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
That won't be a completion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts. I've never seen a quarterback with the ability that he had. I mean, some of the scrambles, I was like, oh my God, throw the ball away. You know,
there was too late in the game.
Yeah, but again, he was trying to make something out of nothing because he didn't have a choice. That's what he was given.
He had the one, I think it was like in the third quarter, where he's running around. So I think he at one point dropped back like 20, 30 yards or something absurd. And
he was spinning right, spinning left, spinning right.
Just throw it away.
Oh, yeah.
But then he ran forward, got the pass off, and were it not for just where he threw it and the receiver being 1 foot out of bounds, would have been a goddamn touchdown.
Yeah.
And I was having flashbacks of Eli. And I'm like, son of a bitch, we're going to see this again?
Well, you'd figure they would do it. I mean, they've earned the pedigree to do it. And
right.
And for how the team has played the entire year, we all knew that Kansas City was going to be in this game, no matter what, even how bad the score was going to be, especially at halftime. That was like, okay, now Kansas City's going to turn it on because they've done that in every game prior. But this one, they just never got it off. Ben-Ami's game plan did not adapt to the Bulls' defense. And like I say, kudos to the Tampa Bay coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, all of them.
All of them,
And,
top to bottom.
I mean, Pad, kudos to you, too, because you're one of the few New England fans that isn't celebrating this Super Bowl as if it was a victory for you. So I'd like to thank you for that because I've heard enough of that and just it's getting old.
I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
It's something that I have never seen in my lifetime. And now, granted, I realize I've been alive for the Jordan stuff, but I was young. I don't remember most of that. You know, it's cool to see, and it's cool to see him get it, you know, but at the same time, I ain't going on a website and buying a shirt.
Right.
You know, for this. So it's cool to see, but I'm like, oh, okay, it is what it is.
Like when Messier left and went to Vancouver, if Vancouver would have won a cup, I would have been like, all right, you know, like Messier is my favorite player of all time. I loved him to death.
Same, man.
I wear his number because, you know, he is my guy. And if he would have won a cup there, it would have been great. Would I have celebrated it like it was a Ranger victory?
Yeah, no.
No, and I'm seeing these Patriot fans that are like, oh my God, what a great Super Bowl win. And it's like, time out. This was the Bucks, not the Patriots.
Yeah.
Remember who you're a fan of. Celebrate the fact that Gronk and Brady got one more, but I'm not sitting over here, you know, celebrating like JPP won a Super Bowl for the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't get me wrong. It was cool to see him get a ring. It was cool to see him win again, but at the end of the day, that game fucking sucked.
Thank you.
The perfect way to describe it is what Fox on NFL did, and they did the Wolverine looking at the picture of Morph and colors, and he's sitting there watching. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how to do it. I mean, you can be happy that he got the ring, but you can't be celebrating he's on a different team.
Just too many Patriot fans acting like this was a Patriot victory, and I'm like, get off of it.
But, you know, it's one of those weird scenarios. Like, I get why they do it. It's not something I would do personally, but I get why, because Brady is so connected with the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then to
won
see
12% of them.
Yeah, which
throw that number out there.
How freaking sick is that?
It would be a higher percentage if he would have beat Eli.
This is facts. But for
Bazinga.
But now, I mean, I don't think there's any debate about where he ranks.
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, Steve, I was 4 a.m. when I was listening to what Booger and Steve were saying, so I might have just been loopy and they were making good points. But Steve was like, so if Mahomes wants to be the greatest of all time, right?
Yep.
And in order to do that, he's 24. He would have to make it to, and this is depending on what Brady does, he'd have to make the 8 Super Bowls.
Yeah, yep. They brought this up. They brought this up on the broadcast.
Yeah, he'd have to go. Oh, maybe it was them. I don't know.
No, it was. I think it was Romo.
Yeah, it was Romo. You're right. So he'd have to make it to. He'd have to win. He'd have to go to 8 and now win 7. Or he'd have to go to 9 and win 8 now to beat him. And that's nuts.
Yeah, and then the thing that we all have to realize is what they did in New England, nobody's ever going to do again.
No.
I'll say arguably. I mean, I'll give the 5% chance.
No, because, listen, even with this Kansas City team, like, they have $100 million going to Mahomes next year.
Oh, yeah.
Tyreek Hill has only got 2 years left on this deal.
Yep.
Travis Kelce, probably only has a few more years left on his deal.
No, they just re-upped him.
They re-upped Kelce?
Yeah, with Mahomes, him and Chris Jones, like the three of those.
Okay, so those three. Yeah. All right, but Tyreek Hill's going to be due at some point.
Hill's going to be due soon.
Edwards Hilaire is going to be due at some point. The defense piece, Tyrann Mathieu, like these pieces are all going to be up for contracts that, once you start taking them away, it's not the same system as it is in New England where, you could plug and play anybody in that system and they could be successful.
Well, they also don't give any big contracts.
Right. Well, they did. I mean, obviously Brady got his and Randy Moss got paid during that time too, but I digress. Like eventually at some point you're going to start losing pieces off of this roster that make it the roster that it is, that it's they're not going to be replaceable. You can't replace Tyreek Hill. You know, like you can't. Like you could get anybody. You're not going to get the same. Like
No.
Stephon Diggs, as great as he is not Tyreek Hill.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
in New England, it was different though, because when they lost Moss, it was all right. We're going to switch it, and then they ran the tight end sets with.
They had Troy Brown. They lost Troy Brown. They plugged in Deion Branch. They lost Deion Branch. They plugged in Edelman there for a bit, and then when Randy Moss came along, and then it was a whole bunch of others.
Yeah, and then they changed their offense around and ran the 2 tight end sets when they had what's his face and Gronk.
Yeah.
So like they were able to adapt and evolve. That's what Kansas City's going to have to do, because when they lose Tyreek Hill, it's over.
Yeah, once they start losing players, that window is closing quick.
And I mean, Buffalo is on the up.
Yeah.
Is on the come up. Cleveland is on the come up. So it's not like in the New England time where it was like they were so far ahead of everybody else as far as what they were doing that no team was able to keep up with them. This is going to be different. There's 3 teams. There's 2 teams that I just named that are very, very right on the cusp of beating them.
Well, that's the one thing about parity in the NFL. And for Brady, he's been able to weather the storm.
He's the first player in NFL history to win a Super Bowl in 3 decades.
Right. It's a wild stat to think about, but for everything that he's done and been able to bring to the table, especially at his age, being 43 now, this is truly an astonishing feat.
Say it's like the one stat I've heard, and I might be misquoting it, but it's something to the effect of Brady has a better chance of making a Super Bowl each year than Steph Curry does of missing a free throw.
A 3-point.
Or a three-pointer.
Yeah.
Three-pointer, that's what it is.
But it just goes to show about what he brings to a team. And I know when we said at the beginning of the year, him coming there wasn't a guarantee. I mean, what was he going to get? Because obviously he's been so connected to the Patriot way and everything that's been established up in Foxborough. We didn't know what we were going to get.
Well, I'll say the post presser with Arians was they had that New England game or the New Orleans game the second time where they had 0 points and then they end up putting up 33. And at halftime they went in the locker room and him and Tom sat down. They were, he was Tom. We're gonna go for it. We're just gonna sling it. Just buckle up and we're gonna throw the ball. And he said from that point on, that's when they really started to evolve this offense. And that's what we said, going into the year, because in the beginning there was a lot of growing pains. They were throwing these passes that Tom wasn't, and Brady wasn't efficient with, and there was interceptions. There was his age a factor here. His father time caught up to him, and then all of a sudden, now they started to stretch the field a little bit, vertically, and Godwin, started running those underneath routes and really opened the floodgates. And then obviously the what's the other wide receiver, the Jimmy
Mike
kid?
Evans.
No, not Mike Evans. The smaller one, the slot wide receiver, Scotty.
Godwin?
Oh, yeah,
Scotty. Yeah, he came on late in the season, and then obviously picking up Antonio Brown was a big factor because it made Brady more comfortable, and that it showed in the Super Bowl because look who got all the who was successful in the Super Bowl, Antonio Brown, and Gronk. So that those were weapons that he was looking for, and that everything changed after that New Orleans game. And I damn it, I just missed it because we should have probably seen that coming.
Well, we should have seen it coming, but you never know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
But for Brady to finally get the coaching staff to buy into what he was saying, and for him to even flip his game too, it had to be a perfect marriage to make this work. They wound up making it happen. And the proof is right here. I mean, like we say, you take a look at his wide receiver core. I mean,
It's a video game.
It's a video game. I mean, Scott Miller, the fact that he's even mentioned on here. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah, but I mean that's what Brady does. I mean,
Right.
Edelman and Amendola were all journeymen. That were on the always solid players, but not great players. And Brady got a hold of them and made them great players.
Yeah, and that's something that he brought and really shined here because for the cast of characters he had to work with here, on paper, they should have got blown out of the water.
Yeah.
But he willed that game, and he definitely took advantage of everything the Kansas City defense was giving him.
Yeah.
They were playing very aggressive. They were playing very emotional, and he took advantage of it, albeit they did get some calls that fell their way.
Yeah.
But that happens in every game.
Well, and just the one point with, I know they were talking towards the end of the game, him coming down there and changing the culture and this and that. I'm like, yeah, that's true, but this is only going to work for when he's there. He's great. He's one of the best, if not the best, players of all time. You can have that discussion amongst yourselves. But yeah, he changed the culture. Yeah, they're going to, the guys who are there are going to play a little bit differently than they did in years prior. That's only going to work so far that he's there. Look at New England. Yeah, they changed the culture in New England from a team that's just kind of there, it is what it is, to a winning culture, one of the, tied for number one in Super Bowl wins all time, to now you don't know what the hell they're going to get, and you don't know when they're going to get back to the playoffs again.
Yeah.
The same can be said for Tampa Bay. They're going to be great as long as he's there, but as soon as he's gone, that culture is great and all, and having that mentality that he does is great and all, but it doesn't matter if the talent isn't there at the quarterback position, because I'm sorry, Ryan Griffin and Blaine Gabbert ain't Brady.
No, they're definitely not. And there's going to be the big change in the guard when this happens.
Yeah, but that was a tough go for Jameis Winston, because he did what Bruce Arians asked him to do, which was just throw the ball downfield. And if we throw an interception, we throw an interception. So he played well in that year at Tampa Bay with him. He at one point was leading the league in touchdowns while also leading interceptions. But that's what your coach asked you to do. That's what your coach asked you to do.
30 and 30 club.
Yeah.
But it is what it is for this team. And that is, like I said, they went through the transition point. They now have an established culture down there. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to sustain. I'm not saying this as a hater, but let's face it.
He's 43.
Yeah, exactly. How many more great years does he have left in the tank? I know he likes to say longer, but let's be honest about this.
Well, let's just see what their offense evolves into next year, because obviously Leftwich is going to be coming back. Aaron has already said he's coming back too, so that's going to be the same cast of characters. I don't think anybody's leaving. Maybe Gronk, from as far as if he's going to retire or not. That's up in the air.
That's always up in the air.
Yeah, but as long as they bring back Ronald Jones is going to be coming back.
I think the only contract they had up was Godwin's, but he already said he's going to take a money cut to stay on the team.
Yeah, so
it's a smart move to do if you want to win. And I think that where Tampa Bay is going to have players do that, Kansas City on the flip side, they've already locked up most of their core.
Right.
However, they didn't lock up everybody. And there's only so much of a salary cap that can go around. Can Kansas City maintain the success moving forward? I don't think they can.
No.
I think the problem they're going to have is, even in their own division, they're now having some competition.
Yeah, if you compare the two and what they have in each conference, really the NFC, not a lot. Drew Brees is going to be retiring, so that's going to be a big blow to New Orleans.
Yeah.
The Rams, obviously, now with Matt Stafford, what's that going to bring to the table? Seattle obviously had no defense at all. So it's really, where's the challenger for Tampa Bay? I'm not really seeing one right now. And then on the Green Bay, really is the only challenger.
As long as Rodgers is there, they'll always be a contender.
Yeah, and as long as Rodgers, and if they can improve the defense this year into the draft and free agency, because that's what you got to do, that will be huge. So really, outside of Green Bay, I can't think of any team offhand that would really compete. And then on the flip side of it with Kansas City, I already named two. Mm-hmm. The Raiders are right there too. They obviously beat. Yeah. They obviously beat Kansas City, so they've already shown that they know it. And, really, the Chargers, too. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a huge step forward. Herbert came on and didn't look like a rookie.
No.
And played very, very well. They already have the weapons offensively. Defensively, they had some key injuries. So that's that's a problem. So if they come back healthy, they're going to be a thorn in their side. Miami's fledgling around there too. So they're always what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. So that's always a possibility too.
Yeah, the AFC does have its contenders. Miami is definitely one. Who knows what the Jets could do in a year with some moves and some trades?
Yeah,
but if they get Deshaun Watson there, that's going to be a huge step in the right direction.
It'll be interesting to see what they can do, Slay. Obviously, I know we're talking next year, but if he can be as good of a head coach as he was a defensive coordinator, that team's going to be very good defensively. It's just, what are they going to do offensively?
Right, and he just has to get some right pieces in there. But that's the one great thing about the NFL, is that once we wrap up a season,
everybody's 0-0, baby.
Everybody's 0-0. Everybody's in the same playing field per se. It's just, what can you do when it's free agency time, and what can you do with the draft?
So
Giants of the ship.
The only people who liked the Super Bowl were the sports books, because
Well, exactly. It's arguably the biggest gambling day in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about that. It's the most watched program in the United States alone, let alone the world.
It was the most watched Super Bowl, I think they said, since New England versus Seattle.
Right.
So that's pretty impressive. I mean, it also obviously helps that people couldn't be there, but I mean, still to get that kind of attendance numbers is great.
To get that attendance number, I mean, it's always an event, and that's why we always heighten it up so much because, yeah, sure, you want to call it a Super Bowl because, hey, it's super and whatever, but this is where legacies are defined. For Brady, he's been here before. This is secondhand to him.
And, real quick, I know we like to talk also the performances. I want to give credit to The Weeknd. Not big on his music, but you know what? The guy had a COVID year performance and obviously had, probably tighter restrictions than previous halftime shows. And the guy went out there and put on a show. He did the best with what he probably was able to work with.
Yeah.
And I would like to give my hats off to him. I saw a lot of people giving some flack to him and giving him a hard time, and I just don't think that's fair. I don't think it was right because the guy went out there and did his thing.
No, he did his thing. I mean, I will say this: I wasn't as blown away by the performance as other people because I think that some people took what I was saying, which I was like, I'm not super impressed by this. As I thought it was a bad performance. I mean,
I wasn't even just talking. I'm just talking social media posts I saw.
I know that, but I posted that well, stand by the state.
Right, but I mean, what your Prince thing is right. It was the greatest Super Bowl performance of all time.
Yeah.
There is no taking away from that. But in the notion of COVID, the restrictions that he was probably having to work with, the fan, not being able to have a actual live crowd there, because I mean, to me, it looked like he recorded it ahead of time.
Parts of it,
Parts of it definitely worked.
Yeah, so in
my opinion.
we took we have now one of the greatest gifs / memes of all time with him running through the mirrors.
I'm not gonna lie, that made me motion sick.
I was definitely getting a little queasy myself, but the following the posts afterwards of I saw traveling to my daughter's softball event and trying to find the field that we're at. Like that, I resonate. I was like, that's wicked funny. Then I saw another one of trying to find my ball in the 18th hole. Like this was shit that was just like, this is funny. So The Weeknd, thank you for that content moving forward. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that.
Oh, absolutely. I just love that you could play the I can't feel my face when I'm with you. I wasn't sure he was going to for the NFL.
Yeah.
Hey,
I was so happy he did though.
The NFL. I mean, I posted the Janet Jackson thing. Obviously, have lower, as far as the music, they have really lowered the bar as far as what they'll allow or what they're going to restrict. So, yeah, I kind of knew that was coming. I was surprised he played the 50 Shades of Grey song.
Yeah.
Because that one obviously has a lot of innuendo in there.
Yeah. But no, it was a very good performance. Like I said, I just wasn't so in love with it as other people were.
Sure.
And that's something I'll stand
with.
But
that's because you got Prince up there, and I feel the same way. Nothing will ever. Everybody loved the Beyonce performance and the Shakira, the J-Lo one, and I'm like,
great,
not compared to Prince.
No, Prince dropped the microphone.
Yeah, dude. I mean, nobody's going to be able to top that.
Yeah.
Never, ever. So I when people compare it, I don't even want to bring it in discussion because that one and then the Foo Fighters are just the two best performances of all time to me.
Facts.
So
I agree with you.
You just can't compare them. They just got to take the fact and put it in a little bubble and say, all right, where does he rank among the others?
Yeah,
because he's never going to be a top two.
Yeah, no. But for what he capped off a great night for entertainment.
Yeah.
And like I say, the Super Bowl is the biggest sporting event of the year. I mean, I think you can have that argument about other sports, but the Super Bowl shuts down a lot.
Pretty much.
I mean, outside of for wrestling fans, WrestleMania, there is nothing that because it's one day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's one day, one game. College football's on a Monday, so there's only so much they can do. This is on a Sunday. You got family, friends. Obviously pre-COVID. With like the NHL and the NBA, it's all 7-game series. So it's like, when do you really throw that party?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's such a celebration to get there. And like I say, this is where legends are born. These are where they're made. Brady knows this better than anybody.
Eli Manning knows that better than anybody.
He solidifies his legacy.
He's helping Eli's Hall of Fame chances.
Yeah,
Eli didn't have a problem getting in to begin with.
No, but this just definitely helped it a little more.
No, it did not. Stop it. Eli Manning was getting in the Hall of Fame regardless.
Oh, I'm not saying he wasn't going to be in, but no, just it's already further cementing Eli's going to get in there.
I will always go back to that Super Bowl against Philly when everybody was cheering for Philly, and I'm like, no, you idiots, cheer for New England, because if New England wins, it's only Eli. That's it, baby. It's only Eli, and people did not understand that, and now it's Eli and Nick Foles, and that's just heartbreaking.
It is what it is with that. But I tell you what, for all the storylines coming out of the Super Bowl, it was one heck of a way to end the football season.
I'll say shout out to the guy who decided to put down $3,000 on the 15-1 odds that Mahomes wouldn't throw a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. He made off with a nice pay. He made off with a nice
Stones.
Shout out to Philly for not pulling the trigger on Carson Wentz too, letting the Super Bowl play out, because that would definitely have been a Philly move by trying to steal headlines.
Yeah, the Super Bowl you can't really go near. Let the two teams
Dude,
play.
well, when the rumor came out Thursday, I was like, wait, what? This is going to happen on Super Bowl Sunday? Goodell is going to lose his mind.
That's why I said there was no chance it was going to happen then. I understand you were thinking.
Yeah.
I was like, there is no way that Goodell and the powers that be will let something upstage the Super Bowl.
He would
like
have
that.
lost his mind. Like, what was it? A-Rod
Yeah.
that did
Yeah.
something on
No,
Game 7 of the World Series.
Game 5 or Game 6, yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody remembers that backlash, and they're like, "There's no chance in hell Philly did that." Oh, it would have been ugly.
Even better though, the reports coming out today that Philly doesn't feel like they've gotten a fair offer. That's just great.
We'll talk about that next week because I
Yeah.
want to see how this all pans out.
That's
but for
fine.
this week, it's all about the Super Bowl. Brady collects another one. Mahomes is not taking over the mantle of the GOAT just yet. A lot of headlines to discuss, so definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts about the Super Bowl? Let's discuss. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Nerd Bomber here, one of the co-hosts of the Online Warriors podcast. Our weekly podcast started as a way for three friends to keep in touch and discuss their passion for movies, gaming, technology, and entertainment. And since then, we've grown into a fantastic online community. Every Wednesday, we release a new episode discussing the latest nerdy news, and then we go hands-on with our weekly adventures and a fun trivia show. Sound interesting? Check us out on every podcast platform, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or hit us up at onlinewarriorspodcast.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Time to talk some NBA news.
Basketball is my favorite sport.
Coach, why don't you break it down? What's going on in the league?
Well, after months of discussions, apparently the New York Knicks have traded a Dennis Smith Jr., who came over in the Porzingis trade, and a second-round pick previously owned by Charlotte to Detroit. I'm sorry, for a one controversial, if I will, Derrick Rose. So Derrick Rose coming back to New York after the treacherous first season, stuttering here, where he went AWOL for about 2 weeks, and nobody in the Knicks organization, anybody, knew where he was. Abruptly ended up finding out that he was taking a little vacation time with his son. That season obviously ended with Derrick Rose being released, and never thought in my lifetime I'd see a reunion with him and the Knicks after that, and here we are, 2021, baby.
Pad?
Yeah, no, definitely a surprising move because, like Coach said, Rose joined the Knicks in 2016, 2017. This was when Phil Jackson was in charge of things. I think we all saw the video of where he was when he found out the trade and how excited he was. There's the video of him crying as he found out the news.
Yeah, there's a whole documentary around that offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing the news and going, all right, this should work out for him. He's, potentially, low risk, high reward, type of deal, but obviously it didn't work out for him. Slightly different player than he was then. I think he's figured himself out a little bit better. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. He obviously reunites with Thibodeau, who was the coach when he won his MVP when he was with Chicago. So
and played about 43 minutes a night.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how it goes. Again, it's low risk, high reward.
It definitely is, and to see him reunite with Thibodeau, that's the selling point right there.
Yep.
He always has had his best success with Thibodeau. And I think to bring him in, it's a win-win situation. That if it flames out, it's still a win because they're not going to lose that much about this.
Right. Well, he's on an expiring deal. He's only making like $8.7 million. So I mean, that's going to come off the books, which only helps the Knicks. My biggest thing is that it's heartbreaking that Dennis Smith Jr. didn't pan out. I thought, especially with his rookie season out of Dallas, that this trade was the Knicks finally landing the point guard of the future, and he just never found his game. Whether it was, and I don't want to point blames at coaching staff, but whether it was, the previous regime or if it was, him just not being able to adapt and evolve in the city life. It's a tough break because I thought the kid had a ton of future. I mean, God's sakes, his rookie season, he was thrashing the league.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this also works out for the Knicks in that, yeah, he's a little older, probably won't be playing every minute of every night. Knicks are a young team. He hasn't had the most successful career in NBA history, but I think he can still be a mentor and teach some of the younger guys on the team a few things.
He could definitely be a mentor. I mean, he was on the pace for it until he got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, god damn, his Derrick Rose we're talking about right now. I mean, that rookie year that he had, then the second season winning the MVP. I mean, those Chicago teams were on his back.
Yeah,
I mean, they had nobody outside of him as far as like scoring threat legitimately, and he carried those TIB teams to Eastern Conference Finals games.
Yeah, he did all he could do to win, and then unfortunately when he got hurt there, he
tore up that knee.
Yeah, I mean, once you do that, it's extremely difficult to come back and be the same player you were. But he's been a very serviceable player, and I think that he will come with a lot of veteran leadership for a young Knicks team that could definitely use it.
Well, I mean, now comes the problem of, where he fits in the lineup because, obviously they didn't trade. They traded a guy who's not, potentially going to the G League to play in their bubble because he just wasn't getting minutes in New York. So, I saw some rumors and speculation that Elfrid Payton's been the starting point guard for the Knicks, and it's been very controversial, I guess, among Knicks fans because Emmanuel Quickley has come on as a 25th draft pick and played almost well enough to be a nominee for Rookie of the Year, I would say. And here we are now with a lot of fans calling for IQ to go in the starting lineup. Thibodeau is held fast with starting Elfrid Payton, which is fine because I get the notion that he plays better with the second unit. I mean, sometimes, you got to remove yourselves from the fact that he's going to be a starter. Like, there's no taking it away. Yep. But when you are with that second unit going against second unit guys, he has the ability to really shine, where if he was in the starting lineup, now he's got to play the starters. He's going to have to defer to Julius Randle a lot, so he's not going to get the same looks. So a lot of things change, and the flow of the game changes with that. So again, back to Derrick Rose and where he fits in the lineup. I would like to see him start. I don't know if he's got that in him, but I would love to get Elfrid Payton off the goddamn floor.
Yeah,
I'm one of the fans that have been calling for him to not be playing, and I would love to see him start with IQ come off the bench. I've read some reports that teams have called for Elfrid Payton. I don't know who. I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't care. Yeah. If he got traded for a bag of balls, I would say, okay, no disrespect, Mr. Payton, but I'm just not a fan of your game. And so I would love to see that. And then I also saw another report that there's potential that Austin Rivers might get traded, which to me, that's kind of heartbreaking because they signed Austin Rivers on such a veteran-friendly deal where it was like he wanted to be here. He sought the Knicks in free agency. He could have gone to a contender. Philly is a team where his dad is that could have really used him. Houston probably would have loved to have brought him back. So I find it hard to believe that like the Knicks were the only suitors for him. So to see that he's a potential to get traded kind of sucks because he's a guy that wanted to be a Knick. So if he does get traded, that sucks. Derrick Rose will fit into his spot as the backup point or shooting guard. I prefer, though, Payton be the one that gets moved, and the starting lineup is Rose, RJ, who's starting at the three? I don't even know. Oh, Bullock, and Randall and Mitchell Robinson. That's what I would prefer. And IQ getting more minutes. That's what I want.
Well, IQ has to get more minutes. That's the big thing. I mean, he's doing very well right now.
Dude, I mean, he only got 12 or 14 minutes in the Miami game, and he got them back in the game when he was on the court. Like, they were down double digits, and IQ comes in, checks in the second half, and they were up 1.
Yeah.
And then he got benched again, and then they lost by 3. I just don't understand.
I don't either, but I'm trusting what they're doing, though.
Sure.
And that's the thing. It's the long, slow burn to figure out, okay, what is this team going to be?
Yeah, this move is one of many that are going to come. Like, I think Knox is going to be on the block here at some point.
I agree.
And I think either Bullock or Alec Burke is going to be another name that's going to be associated to a trade too, because veteran or contending teams that are in need of a shooting threat are going to come calling, and somebody's going to come calling for Knox because he's not getting minutes now either. I mean, he's been relegated to the bench, and he shouldn't have been because he was literally shooting lights out from the corner from 3. So, what do you know?
I mean, there's so many different ways you can look at things, but like I say, I trust what Leon Rose is doing, and with what they're building in New York is a lot better than we've seen in recent memory. So we just got to let this play out and see where the chips fall. The Derrick Rose move, like I say, makes a lot of sense because he's reunited with Thibodeau. Tibbs is establishing what he wants to do with this team. We got to give him time to do it because by the time it's all said and done, they'll be a contender. Is it going to be this season? Probably not, but they'll be a contender sooner than later.
Well, I mean, think about it, for the first time in, I don't know, umpteen trillion years, the Knicks actually have a core four that's under the age of 25.
Right.
You know, I mean, Mitchell Robinson's the oldest of the group at 23. Like, well, I mean, Julius Randle's the oldest at 27. So, yeah, all right, they have a core under 30. But, I mean, I think Randle, I know that a lot of Knicks fans don't love his game, but, I mean, right now with what Thibodeau's doing with him, he is a all-star caliber player right now. And, I mean, I know the offense has ran through him, and he's not letting Knicks fans down. I mean, that's the biggest thing is like when Randle came, you know, everybody was like, why, we don't need him, blah, blah, blah. But like if the Knicks didn't have him, they wouldn't have any offense right now. Like Randle literally is the cog that moves the wheel. And then once he gets going, then, RJ gets going, Mitchell Robinson gets some look backs. They start sucking in the paint to try and double him, and then Reggie Bullock can get going from three. So it's like everything centers around him that if he's not going, they don't have anything.
Right.
So I'm just looking at the Knicks schedule and their high point scorer. Mostly is either Barrett or Randall.
Yeah.
Right.
And listen, so that's Randall, one piece of the four. Mm-hmm. Mitchell Robinson obviously was a diamond in the rough who is really starting to find his game under Thibodeau because he cultivates big centers because he plays defense and blocks shots. So Thibodeau will know how to use him effectively. And forget the three. Then you got RJ Barrett, who we on the show love.
Yes, we love him.
We love him. I don't say anything bad about him, unlike some other people that feel like they're basketball experts that want to throw him under the bus. But like, he's a 20-year-old kid who is still trying to find his game. And I mean, all right, is he the most effective shooter? No. But if there's games where he gets hot and he's streaky, watch out because it is dangerous. He's only going to get better. Like this kid, he's not going to regress. He's only going to get better.
He wasn't a superstar that was going to come in and be the franchise guy day one.
Well, right. I mean,
that's one thing that I think that certain Knicks fans need to realize. You need to have him time in a system where he's got pieces to balance him out, so he gains confidence.
And I think the problem was Fizdale just didn't know how to use him effectively because when he came in, Fizdale was like, all right, you're going to run the point. And that's not RJ's game. I mean, although he can initiate the offense, that's not him. Like he looked really awkward when he had to do it at Duke. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that's, I think obvious because that's why they kept Trey Jones in almost 39 minutes a game.
The entire time. That's not Barrett's game.
Yeah,
so it's like to try force him and do it like, he can be serviceable doing it.
Yeah, you want him to initiate a play or two and run a downhill pick and roll. He can do that, but having him do it 40 times a game is not what he needs to be doing.
Well, right. I know you guys like this. I just saw a tweet from Tim Reynolds. He covers the NBA for the Associated Press. This is from earlier today. Quote, Derrick Rose had dinner with new teammates Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin last night, sharing his cell number and letting his young Knicks know that he's happy to share knowledge whenever they want.
Fantastic. They already said in Detroit that he was, because they drafted the point guard too, that he was already, rooming up with him on road trips and was like mentoring him, and that they've said that he has head coach written all over him if he wants it.
Oh, I'm sure.
So fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great move for the Knicks in that point because for a young team, like you said, that has a youthful core, they need somebody to guide them.
Right.
And Derrick Rose can definitely do that. So like I say, on paper, is it a win-win? Yeah, I think so, because if he flames out for whatever reason,
he's off the books.
He's off the books.
Right.
If he wins, he's going to mature that team, that when he leaves that team, they're going to be in better shape.
Well, and then, IQ, obviously, is playing as great of a rookie that we've seen in New York in a long time.
Right.
And, has that floater that he has is dangerous because
Yeah.
he's getting it off whenever, wherever, and I mean it's going in at like a 70% clip. So once he finds the ability to maybe shoot a little bit better, forget about it.
And it's coming in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
It's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, he puts in the practice. My God, him and Obi Toppin were taking up shots after. I mean, that's what I love about this team too, is that they're hungry. Like, the Kobe thing where he, kept the lights on till 1 a.m. A lot of younger players saw that. And, a lot of it's story, a lot of it's this and that. But, like, these kids, they have a 1 o'clock game. They're staying at MSG shooting till 5, 6 o'clock because it's like, what else are they going to go do?
Yeah.
So this is great. And it's leadership and it's development. And, Derrick Rose is just going to feed into that, I think. And when he gets a hold of IQ and can show him kind of more the ways to run a team effectively, because that's what IQ's missing, like the ability to actually run the point guard position. Does he run a beautiful pick and roll? Sure. But is he to the point where he can control the offense the way like Derrick Rose did and does? No. And that's what he's going to learn. And then you talk about the fact that Dallas is just fledgling along, and the Knicks own 2 of their next 4 draft picks.
How good is that?
It is wonderful. My favorite thing was I was on Twitter this morning and I saw, some Dallas beat writer was like, oh, the Knicks core that were involved in the Knicks trade scored 67 points tonight and was 57% from the floor. And somebody tweeted and goes, it took you, and they named like the date, it took you 2 years, 36 days, and 4 hours to finally have that. Good for you. Meanwhile, the Knicks are owning your next 2 out of 4 draft picks and loving life.
How sweet is it? How sweet indeed.
But then say just one last thing, and I gotta say I'm just looking at Instagram. D Rose put up a thing on Instagram. I won't read the whole thing, but just the end of it. Quote: "Other hoopers always used to tell me that if I ever had the chance to play in the Mecca, go for it. I'm getting a second chance. Got to make this one count, but I'm built for it. What's poo spelled backwards? The shit just in my blood. Peace and love, king and queens."
Yeah, I mean,
Love it.
See, that's the thing. Like when they were talking about it, it was like, oh, what happened last time. But this isn't that last time. Phil Jackson's not here. He's not going to be running the triangle offense. This is going to be a coach that he's familiar with, that he had some of the best years of his life with, that he's close with. I mean, him and Thibodeau were close, So that's only going to push along the chemistry that's on this team right now. And I mean, eventually when, and if they ever find the franchise free agent that they think they're going to get, they have to make sure he can assimilate to this team,
right.
Not the team assimilate to them like you see on some franchises. And I think that's what's great is that they are finally adhering to the fact that they're going to have to build within versus trying to build out.
Funny you bring about franchises that are bringing in free agents. And how that doesn't pan out.
Then maybe I did that on purpose.
I love the segue. Why don't you break it down for us?
Well, I mean, obviously, I believe it was Friday night. The Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I believe so.
Brooklyn Nets were in a game where they were playing the Hawks, and Kevin Durant had started the game on the bench.
Yep.
Was in quote unquote close contact.
Yeah, they were waiting on a test.
An inconclusive test, so he was unable to play. And then the test results came back inconclusive, so they allowed him to play. Mm-hmm. Then, after halftime, he was going back on the court, and they told him that the results came back as positive.
Yes.
And then they pulled him out of the game.
Yeah, you have that correct. Because and then now, so some people might be sitting there going, well, wait, if the tests hadn't come back yet, why did they let them go back? COVID protocol says they don't have to hold them there while they're waiting for the test. They can just go out and play.
Which is
seems like a loophole.
Fucking wild.
Seems like a loophole you ought to close.
I mean,
for this reason alone,
they gotta lock that up,
dude. This is the thing that I don't understand. Like they had a guy in the bubble order Grubhub, go and get the door and got the food, and he wasn't allowed to play. But now when somebody has an inconclusive test, you're going to be like, all right, he can play, but he has to start on the bench. This is wild. That's a bad look for the NBA.
That's a tremendously bad look, especially. I'm sorry, Pat.
No, you're fine. It's a bad look for the NBA. The thing that annoyed me though was Durant, either during the game, after the game, whenever the hell it was, where he was tweeting, he goes free KD or free whatever,
free me,
and I'm like, motherfucker, you might have COVID. You were near somebody who has tested positive. You didn't give a flying fuck. Went out on the court and played. And we don't know if you've tested positive. Now, I realize, he's tested negative in the days prior. Still, better safe than sorry. If it were me, I would, and I found out I was near somebody who tested positive, I'm going home. I'm going to sit at home and I'm going to get tested 3 more times before I come back and play again.
This is just freaking wild, top to bottom. I mean, first and foremost, if there was even a question about it, he shouldn't have been allowed near the court.
Facts.
That there's no loophole, there's no gray area. This is a pandemic that we are playing in. You have to think safety first and health first. For you, the organization.
Oh, it was Toronto, actually. It was Toronto they were playing.
Everybody that you're in contact with for this business. If you're going to be going to a stadium, you're going to an arena, you have to be smarter than this. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you sat on the bench, inconclusive tests, so we're playing, that is a bad look for whoever cleared you, in my opinion. But then the fact that you got pulled because the test came back positive, whatever the case is, that you were around somebody, so they pulled you on precaution. Look, you have to just take that L and go home. Point blank.
This needs to be like you see in real life, where you may have somebody of high stature and high power, like a world leader or what have you, that, they've got a lot of power. They've got a lot of pull. They've got a lot of say. But when it comes to issues of health and their health, the doctor supersedes them. You could have somebody, prime minister, king, president, what have you, they're like, I'm going to go do X. And the doctor goes, no. I get final say on that because your health is what's most important right now.
Exactly. There shouldn't even be a question about it. And the fact that you get on Twitter after saying, free me? Come on.
I mean, I guess I understand where he was coming from, because his frustration is that you allowed him to be on the bench. You allowed him to then enter the game. Then you sat him at halftime, and then you pulled him to start the third quarter. So, I understand where his frustration is coming from, because he, as a player, obviously wants to be in the game with his teammates.
Sure, absolutely.
Was told that he was going to be allowed to only then get pulled from it. So, I think that's the avenue that his frustration was coming from, and I can understand that, because that would piss me off, too. If I was told one thing, then another, and then another. I'm going to be like, yo, get off me. Figure it out. But then at the same time, for the NBA to say, all right, the test is inconclusive, so we are going to allow you, is just mind-boggling to me, because I'm thinking of it from just the protocol and standards of when you have somebody with an inconclusive test, the protocol is still quarantining for 7 days.
Right.
So just digging into further details with this, reading from a CBSSports.com article. About halfway through the article, this is where things get complicated. Durant was then allowed to enter. So this comes after Durant went through one of the strangest sagas of the NBA season Friday night during the team's game against the Toronto Raptors. He underwent contact tracing that prevented him from starting, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski and Malika Andrews. This is where things get complicated. Durant was then allowed to enter the game midway through the first quarter, making his first appearance off the bench as an NBA player. Okay, we know that. It was reported that he did not need to undergo further testing, but someone he came into contact with did. Prior to the game, Durant traveled to and from the practice facility with a team employee 3 different times on Friday, with neither of them wearing masks. The team employee tested positive for the virus, which is why Durant was held out of the start of the game. However, he was then cleared, played a good chunk of the game, and then was pulled out of the game during the third quarter due to the league's health and safety protocols because that person registered a positive test.
Yeah, but then he should have been in the game to begin with.
Exactly.
That's the thing. In the PLL, they had, obviously they had their bubble and whatever they did during their season, and when guys had inconclusive tests, they still weren't allowed to come back to the bubble. They weren't even allowed to travel to the bubble. They had to quarantine. At the time, CDC had 3 to 4 days. So even the inconclusive test people weren't allowed to travel and be at training camps till 3 to 4 days after quarantining.
Yeah.
So, here you are with one of your superstars going onto the court with other players and then, having contact with them. And it's you want to have it, you tweeted, you want to have an all-star game?
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, you can't be doing this. I mean, you have to be tighter about your restrictions if there's even the chance that somebody could infect somebody else with the pandemic. I mean, sorry, this is just how it boils down to. You can't take those liberties in the era we live in.
No.
You need to have conclusive evidence. If it's not, I'm sorry, then he has to sit out. Enough said. Like, why is this even a big...
I would understand it if he came out and said... came out and kind of criticized the NBA for what happened and letting him play in this. I would get that. I'd be fine with that. But for him to sit there and say, yo, free me. No, dumbass. You were near somebody who tested positive.
Stay off Twitter.
No, so my problem was actually more in the comment that Joe Harris had to say. Because Joe Harris, post-game, said, we're in a tight division race, and, what if we're staring outside one of the positions, and now this game comes back as a loss? Because his comment is boiling down to the fact that, they ended up losing this game. KD didn't play, and they lost. So what if it boils down to one game decides whether they're in or out of the playoffs? They're going to look back at this game, and it's like, hey, Mr. Harris, tough shit?
No, yeah. Well, the thing I would say to Mr. Harris is that's not on the NBA. That's on Kevin Durant for being a dumbass.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
No, it's just the fact that he was given the protocol and, listen, if there was even a shadow of the doubt, he shouldn't have gone.
Right, but I mean, he also, that team employee might be assigned to driving him places.
Sure.
Right, but
I mean,
but the fact is that if you had an inconclusive test that doesn't say green light go, he should have taken upon himself to sit it out. And it shouldn't have even been an issue. The fact that people are trying to make an issue like, oh, well, that could have cost us a game.
Yeah, that's the part that makes me,
That's such a bad take.
Because with the KD thing, he's a competitor. Like, he's gonna want to play. And
Exactly.
if the NBA allows him to play, then that's not on him, because he's still, he doesn't know what the results are. So if he's allowed to go out and play, then in his mind, I'm allowed to play, I'm good. So
Right.
for the NBA then to come back and then, flip flop, snip snap, that's what would drive me nuts. I would have felt the same way that he did with the frustration of, make up your fucking minds. Can I not, or can I? And if I can't, then tell me.
There's so many people to blame about this that it's just not even that simple of an issue, and that's why we're really deep diving in about this. The NBA needed to be better about this. Completely.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're first and foremost at fault.
Dude, the NFL had the Kansas City barber test positive, and literally the center for Kansas City was sitting in the barber chair getting a haircut when the test results came back, and the guy was like, the NFL ripped him out. No more haircut. You're positive. And the guy had to figure, he almost was potentially not going to be able to play.
Yeah.
So the NFL was like, no, we got to take you away from this position.
And especially for how the NBA did such a fantastic job last season with the bubble to let the guard down here.
Right. Think about it. I mean, and not even just the Grubhub dinner order. The one guy left the bubble because his family.
He didn't leave the bubble. He went to the borderline of where you can and can't go, and by doing that, broke the protocol.
Well, yeah, but somebody had to go see their family or something was going on. They left the bubble.
Yeah.
I think it was Zion. Zion left, and then he wasn't allowed to play for 7 days.
Yeah.
And they were only playing 14 games.
Right.
He couldn't play in 7 days worth of games, which at the time in the bubble was literally back to back to back to back to back. And New Orleans was in the middle of a playoff chase.
Yeah, so to see it get lax now and everybody is letting this happen, I mean, I'm sorry. This is just a bad look for the NBA. It's a bad look on Durant, because even though you're allowed to play, he should have taken it upon himself, in my opinion, to sit himself out and just say, okay, let me have a conclusive yes or no. I'm good. Missing one game this early in the season is not going to make or break.
I just looked at the conference standings. They're in the third fucking seed.
Yeah. It's not like they're in the...
Then when Joe Harris made that comment, I was like, Joe, you still have James Harden. You still got Kyrie.
If this were at the end of the season,
you're going to be okay.
If you were towards the end of the season, I could see you making that comment. But
yeah, this is the
February.
final week. Yeah, exactly. So it's such a weak take. It's like, shut up. I'm sorry. You should not be saying anything. And now I think the NBA really needs to take a look at this example before they even think about doing an All-Star game, let alone do anything else unless you get precedent set up.
100%. Like, this needs to be something that, because if you want to do, and I don't blame LeBron right now after this, because when the Players Association approved the All-Star game, and then LeBron was like, up in arms about it, I was like, come on, LeBron, like.
No, he did the right thing about it.
Well, at first I was like,
yeah, I know you were.
This is kind of bullshit. Like, LeBron, it's an All-Star game. Like, fans want to see it. Like, let us have this. And I understand the risk and everything. Like, I get it. Like, I understand. But, we want to have an All-Star game. But now, post this, I'm like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm not going. Fuck that noise. I'm not going to be around everybody where, I'm not with my team, first off, that I know where everybody's accounted for. Secondly, I'm not with my medical staff where now I know, our practices and what we are doing to stay healthy. And then on top of it, I'm going to be around other coaching staff and people that I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you.
No, it's foolish to even try attempting this at this stage. Listen, we're on the road to hopefully getting through this. To pause this, to have an all-star game or even a meaningless game and risk the chance of infecting people is just foolish to me.
Just at this point, it would have just been better to, do what the NFL did and have the video game thing.
Oh, yeah.
Something.
They got to do something for it, but hopefully the NBA takes this as a learning experience and moves forward, because for this to happen once, it could always happen again, and that's the scariest thing about this. But let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. We talked a lot of New York basketball, but how's your team doing in the NBA? Let's have that discussion, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Pauline Altman.
And I'm Jessica Thomas, and we're from Quick Bites.
Quick Bites is an educational podcast where we each pick a random topic to research every week.
So you can learn without having to read.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts.
And on Twitter and Instagram at QuickBitesPod.
You can even send topic requests to quickbitespod@gmail.com.
Tell your friends. Quick Bites.
Coming back for another segment of this edition of the ODPH podcast, and time to talk a little UFC action.
Yeah.
Now, this coming weekend is UFC 258, so we're getting closer and closer to making the run through March, which, I mean, there's a lot of stack cards going on for the UFC, but this one definitely has a very, very good main event.
Yeah.
So Pat's going to break down a little bit of it?
Yeah, so this fight is taking place this Saturday, February 13th, from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Where should we start? You got one of the, it's not the co-main event, but it's right before it. Middleweight division, Kelvin Gastelum taking on Ian, how do you say his name? Heinisch?
Yes.
I think it's his name.
Heinisch.
So that one should be good.
Yeah, that should. I mean, Kelvin's always a contender.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll scrap with him. Yeah. I mean, I do like him in that. I believe Kelvin is still ranked number 9, while Ian is number 15. So Kelvin, if he wants to make another run for the belt, he's got to get this one. So I think he's going to pull this one off.
Yeah. Then in your co-main event, you have a matchup in the women's flyweight division between Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso.
Love Barber in this one.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Yes, because you told me to, Ken.
Yes.
But your main event, the fight you're coming here for, the one you're paying your money to see, it is for the welterweight championship, where Kamaru Usman is defending his belt against Gilbert Burns.
Now, the road how we got here was Usman had been waiting for some challengers.
Treacherous,
Yes.
how we got here.
Yes. And nobody would step up at the time to fight, and Gilbert Burns was the only one who did, because Burns is the real upstart in this division. Has been tearing through everybody they've been throwing in front of.
There's also a little bit of backstory here, too, because Gilbert, the Burns thing was the Masvidal fight, too, where Gilbert Burns, he got COVID, and then Jorge Masvidal came in and stepped in. Not to mention, Burns and Usman used to be teammates.
Right. So there is a great backstory with it, and for Usman, I mean, arguably the scariest man on the planet.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody is disputing that.
Well, I don't know anymore.
Really?
That Masvidal fight, man, wasn't the same Usman that we've seen before. The killer, I mean, this guy was a little more tame. Yeah, I mean, he punished Masvidal for 5 rounds, but like, it wasn't the same guy that broke Covington's jaw and absolutely destroyed Woodley's ribcage. This is not the same guy.
Usman still only got 1 loss under his record, and that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't listen. I'm not disrespecting him because I know he'll slaughter me. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, when you talk about a guy who has now been the champion for what? I mean, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah.
at a certain point, it's the Rocky.
Yeah.
You get comfortable on your lures. You hang your hat. He changed teams, changed coaches, and he doesn't look like the same sort of fiery, up-and-coming fighter that he was with the Woodley fight. And the rage isn't there that it was with the Covington fight, where it was a genuine distaste for each other. The Masvidal fight, I thought he would come out and absolutely try and rip his head off, because there was a ton of animosity between that two, and all that turned into was a hug fest and foot stomp. And now here we are with Burns, where Burns' wrestling skill is better than what he's seen prior, and I don't know if he's got the same hunger.
See, for me, I think that we will see the Usman of old.
Okay.
And I'll break it down like this. Usman definitely heard a lot of criticism from the Masvidal fight. And rightfully so, because we have just seen him absolutely kill and slaughter everybody he's been put in front of. Broke Colby Covington's jaw, no matter what Covington says. And absolutely destroyed Tyron Woodley. He's never been the same again. He might not be ever again. Usman knows that if he beats Burns, he gets Covington again. And that is the big money fight the UFC wants to do.
I mean, that's what Usman wants to do.
Yeah, Usman wants to do this in the worst possible way, and rightfully so, because Colby Covington is Colby Covington's worst enemy.
Sure.
Because he can't shut up in his character. And I'm sorry, it is a character. It's not the real
Yeah,
one.
it's a shtick.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that shtick is going to get his ass whooped. And I think Usman knows this, and Usman is going to want to go out there and run right through Burns. I think Burns has got all the possibility in the world to win this. I legitimately do. But do I see him coming out and shooting up the ranks a la John Jones? Do I see him being that guy that is just flying through everybody and dominating? Not necessarily. I think he is a worthy contender, though. I'm not going to say he's not. But I love Usman in this one. And I like him winning by the third round via TKO stoppage. Pad? Any thoughts?
No, I'm thinking the same thing. I think Usman's going to definitely come back hungrier. Definitely want to go for that knockout, and kind of wipe away that he's lost a step after the last fight.
Yeah, because I think that he knows what's to come after this, so he needs to have that fire to make sure that happens.
I mean, I don't know. I am very 50-50 right now on this, because what I'm seeing out of Burns is the same fire and desire, of a guy who's on his way up trying to chase what he wants, which is the title, and I see Usman as a champion, which again, I'll put the Rocky analogy in. He's comfortable, he's content. He's got the championship. I know that the Covington thing's there, but, there's also the factor of, is him, looking towards Covington going to look past Burns? And if he does, I think that's very dangerous, because Burns' wrestling skills, his ability to put hands on you, is definitely a legitimate threat.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun main event.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that this is going to be an absolute banger.
Yeah, and I think they definitely need to for the star power for the UFC. Either way, because if Usman does what Usman does, this is just another big name, and even gets more hype going for that Covington fight.
Well, yeah, because the thing is the difference between the Masvidal fight is obviously he doesn't have the wrestling skills that Burns has, that when he got him in the clinch, there was no threat. You knew that Masvidal wasn't going to be able to do anything in the clinch. If he tries to tie up Burns, he's going to be able to wiggle his way down and get him to the mat, and that's going to be a problem for Usman. So I think that's where the difference is in the two matchups.
Yeah, so I think it's going to come down to striking, and like I said, I love Usman in this one.
Yeah.
So that being said, a couple more headlines jumped out to me this week about the UFC. So Nate Diaz has popped up and said no more fighting at lightweight. Only is going to fight at 165 or higher, so it'll be catch weights and that. And he says he has 2 fights in mind for 2021 at minimum. So he wants to be more active, which that's always good.
Okay.
Any guesses on who the 2 people that he's saying he wants to fight are?
I read it earlier today, and I was one of those. I know one's Oliveira.
Yes.
And I forget the other one. The other one, I was like, ooh, yeah, give me that one.
I saw the Oliveira comment as well, but I can't remember the second.
Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, that was one. That was the one I was like, oh, yeah, give me that one.
See, I am kind of torn on this one. Like, I've never seen Oliveira fight at 170. I've always seen him fight at 145 or 155.
Right.
I don't know how he would do at 170. But that being said, I'm in love with this idea.
I mean, that's kind of a punk move by Diaz to be like, I'm going to call out 2 155ers and be like, and I'm not going to fight anything less than 165.
Yeah.
Like, then don't fight at 175. Like, go up a class.
Well,
like,
I think he could definitely do that. I mean, I know that he said he wouldn't do it, but it's like I could see him come down to 155. Like,
I mean, it's probably
think,
all negotiation
yeah,
skills.
I think it's just some politicking, especially because with his brother Nick hopefully coming back this year, which I cannot wait for that. Nate doesn't want to be in that same division with him, and I don't blame him. But to fight at 170, can he hang with the Usmans? Could he hang with the upper echelon of that division? I think he could. I don't know how successful he'd be, though.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think he needs to run it back with Jorge Masvidal sooner than later.
Yeah.
Yep.
We need to see him fight Conor sooner than later.
Well, little announcement today that Conor might be busy himself.
Oh.
On the Ariel Helwani show, they said that UFC is targeting the trilogy with Poirier.
Well, and Connor does seem to be a little focused on Nate as of late because Helwani posted a clip from his interview with Nate to his Instagram page, and in 3 separate comments, some account titled The Notorious MMA, Conor McGregor's verified account, decided to call out Nate's gamer chair, one of those DX racer chair looking things. They're very comfortable. I've sat in a few. I've sat in one before. They're
Documented, well comfortable. All right.
They're expensive, but they're fucking comfortable. Commented first comment, cool race car chair, bro. Crying while laughing emoji. Second one, look out, we got a badass in a race car chair over here. Crying while laughing emoji. Vroom vroom, beep beep, ha 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 ha.
Oh, that's just playful.
No, I know.
Yeah,
He focused on Nate, though.
Well, I think that Nate will definitely move the needle. He'll generate that buzz for you.
Right.
Is there any money to be made with him and Poirier? You could argue it, sure.
I mean, yeah.
Well, but in comparison to Conor, in comparison to some other fights.
Oh, you're talking Diaz right now.
Yeah, I'm
I
talking
thought you
Diaz.
were talking Conor.
Oh, no, Conor.
Because Conor Poirier 3 would be money.
Well, it's definitely going to be for Conor because he needs to reclaim his legacy. He needs to show that last fight was a fluke in his mind.
Well, and in addition to the Helwani thing, they also said that if that gets targeted, that both fighters are going to push that to be for the title.
Well, it is funny you mentioned that because Khabib has said Poirier, quote unquote, deserves to be a champion. So
Okay.
that is coming from Khabib because I'm fully convinced Khabib is done. And with Conor losing, that was the only enticement for him.
Yeah.
But
no, I at this point, I don't see why Khabib would come back.
there's no point for him to.
No.
Like, listen, he did what he did in that division. There isn't any name except maybe Michael Chandler, but I don't know if he would want to do that fight per se.
Yeah.
Because Chandler, I mean, granted, explosive debut in the UFC, nobody can take that away from him.
Well, yeah.
Is it enough to generate Khabib to come out of retirement? Debatable.
Well, I mean, Khabib at this point sounds like he thinks the lightweight belt should go to Poirier. He was speaking to Match TV, which, if you're not familiar, which included me until I looked it up. Match TV is a Russian public sports channel, saying, quote, "I wouldn't say Poirier and McGregor disappointed me. They showed nothing supernatural. I fought with Poirier, nothing special. It's the same with Conor. I believe that now Poirier deserves to be a champion. That's my opinion. Look at the fighters he's fought. Jim Miller, Eddie Alvarez, Anthony Pettis, Max Holloway. They're these are all top fighters, and they could end up in the UFC's Hall of Fame," close quote.
He's not wrong.
Yep.
Poirier is going to be in the Hall of Fame no matter if he's a champion or not.
Yeah.
He has fought everybody. He's one of those names in the same vein of Donald Cerrone, that he has fought a lineage of the who's who. He's never been in a boring fight. And if they want to put him in that title talk to get the belt, listen, he's definitely earned it. And I don't necessarily think they should give it to him, but he should be in that title fight for it. Conor is a different question, though. Mm-hmm. That I would love to see Conor fight somebody else before we put him in a title shot. Just because of the time off. I mean, you look at when he was champion. I mean, how many times did he defend his belt?
Not enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, as the Conor guy in the room, I can't disagree. I would find it hard pressed to be like, all right, if it's the trilogy fight, then that all of a sudden just gets ran back right away with how hot Poirier is.
Yeah, you have to.
And B, well, no, I'm saying like it doesn't make sense for Conor Poirier 3 to happen the next fight for Poirier. Like, if Poirier should fight somebody else, Conor should have to fight somebody else, and then if they both win, then they should meet for the trilogy fight. And, whatever happens with the belt happens. Like, that's whatever. I just think that if you're trying to put that fight in a title fight, it doesn't make sense for Conor right now. And for Poirier, if I was him, I don't think it makes sense for him either, because why would I want to fight a guy while I'm on a 3 or 4 fight win streak or 2 fight win streak?
2 fight win.
2 fight, yeah. And has looked as good as I had in the last 2 fights, just to fight a guy that I just beat in second round.
Well, I think,
or third round.
I can see it going 2 ways. I do see your point, and I think that is the smarter play. But I think they run it back because I think he wants to capitalize on that on the name.
Yeah, I mean that the money always talks, and I
Well, exactly.
I always think, and I like to think of it more of a ranking system.
Yeah,
because that's the whole point.
Well, it should
AEW, baby.
Yeah.
Rankings matter.
Yeah.
UFC pays as much attention to their rankings as AEW does.
Well, that's a very valid statement too. I'm not disputing that, but that's where I say with Conor, if you want to try getting the buzz back, you could try spinning the story as a fluke and blah blah blah,
right?
And you can instantly put him in there, and it's a big payday for Poirier, so he could definitely win there. I don't think he should. I've been one saying that I think Poirier should fight Oliveira for the 155 belt.
I mean, it would make sense 1 and 2.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And then, okay, you give Chandler, Justin Gaethje, in the most violent fight you'll ever see.
Yeah, you definitely. I mean, if I'm Conor and they throw Chandler at me, I'm saying thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, Conor should fight Diaz. If you really want to make your name, okay, you fight Diaz, you beat Diaz. You can instantly say after that fight and get into the lightweight title talk. You instantly do. Nate's a contender. Nate's a name. It's a huge move. I don't see why you wouldn't do that. I mean, there's only certain fighters that you can put Conor in there right now against that would still draw some buzz. Jorge Masvidal is another one at 170.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm Conor, I'm not taking that fight at anything less than 165. Or anything more than 165.
Well, he's fought at 170, so that's why.
Yeah, but if I'm Conor, I don't want to fight Diaz at 170.
Yeah,
because he is too strong for you at 170. Like, we've seen it.
Oh, I agree.
It does not compute well for Conor. So I'm saying at a minimum, I will meet you at either 160 or 165. Like, I am not fighting anything more than 165.
Yeah, I mean, it was the smart thing to do, and I think they could talk Nate into doing it because that fight will be one of the biggest ones of the year.
Oh, get paid.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. You want to talk about buy rates? Okay,
Right. Yeah.
Conor Poirier generated huge numbers. Diaz Conor 3 be one of the biggest fights in UFC history.
Yeah,
and you can't take anything away from that.
And if we get Mean Conor back.
Well, you need Mean Conor.
Let's go.
You need the guy that's going to draw that buzz, especially him coming off such a bad loss.
And back to the Hawani show, he said no more nice Conor. Well, Conor said this to him.
Well,
so let's go.
He needs that because the star is not shining as bright as it used to. Just got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, just this nice guy shit was good with the Cowboy thing because Cowboy's such a beloved guy that, like, him playing the heel going into that would have only vilified him more. But him playing this nice guy thing, like, made it a feel-good story because here's Conor coming back after the Habib loss, the suspension, all the bad PR that he had going into that fight, and now here he is on this redemption tour. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Cowboy, I can't wait to fight you. It's going to be a great, bout. Beats his ass, shoulder shrug of doom. And, here we are afterwards, and the Poirier fight should have been the same Conor. It should have been the old Conor.
No, that's what he needed to.
Yeah.
But he came in feeling himself a little too much. And he got caught. I mean,
I wouldn't say feeling himself. I think he's in a position in his life right now where he's comfortable with himself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that happens when you mature.
Yeah. And that's something that in the fight game, you don't want to be comfortable.
No, you don't. No, you don't want to mature.
You don't. So for Conor to get back to the old Conor, he definitely needs it. He needs a big name fight to do this in. Diaz is one, Poirier is one. And I think that is the 2 fights you make with him. But with Poirier, he's got his eyes on a title. So I think that he's going to be sitting back. But if Conor gets one of those wins, he's got this locked up.
And Poirier rightfully should.
Yeah,
honestly, Dana should just fucking name a champion. Like, this is just dumb.
Well, I think what you should name the title bout, put Poirier in there, and put Oliveira in as well.
Well, at this point, I mean, god damn, this is... I mean, I know they haven't dubbed it vacant yet, but Habib's been retired
Habib has said take the belt. So this is all on Dana, but I think Dana is trying to hold out for one last Hail Mary that he think he can get Habib to come back, but there isn't a guy there.
Then put an interim title on.
Well, I think that he just doesn't want to do the interims anymore, and I get it, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, pull the belt, and if Habib really wanted to come back, like, you wouldn't just cut him to the front of the line and give him a title shot? Like, come on.
Yeah, you pulled the thing off of John in a matter of instant. Like, it was literally like, John was like, all right, I don't feel like being a light heavyweight anymore, and Dana was like, all right, for real? And John, yeah. All right, give me the belt. Like with Habib, it's been like this cat and mouse game. Just fucking take the belt.
And like I said, I think it's all Dana. I don't think it's Habib.
No, I know it's not Habib. Yeah,
I know.
Habib's sitting here like, no, it's mine. Like, no.
Yeah, he's like, take it. I'll come get it when I want.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Habib's saying, yeah.
Yeah, so...
He's probably like, no, fucking take the thing. Let me come back after it. You want me to come back, Dana? Take the fucking thing from me and let me chase people down.
Yeah, let him get inspired to come back.
Yeah, let me maul somebody real quick.
Yeah.
Let me fight a fucking bear in the meantime, and then I'll come back for the belt.
Yeah, because that would be completely impressive. I'm down for that. 2 fights though I want to close on that got announced though. One that is Bellator,
Okay.
and one Anthony Rumble Johnson is set to fight Yoel Romero.
Yeah. We should note that Bellator is now on Showtime.
Yes, we should note that, as they had a fucking giant press conference just to announce something that I already thought they were doing.
Well, I think it was long rumored, and then it was like, okay.
I honest to God, I thought they were with Showtime forever. To me, I was like, this is news?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's as is the case with Bellator and their Grand Prix tournaments. It's cool if it was like 5-10 years ago. Now,
I just love this because these guys are just going to throw hands. Like,
back to the fight. Yeah, great. They're gonna slug each other out. It's just, if you don't have Showtime, then tough shit. You're not going to see it.
But it's still a noteworthy fight because Rumble Johnson coming back and finally fighting somebody that's going to throw some hands with him. Waiting to see how that pans out. And then for the nostalgia bout of the year.
Oh, no.
Tito, let me guess. Was I Liddell Tito too?
No.
Tito Randy Couture 3.
No.
Oh.
It has been announced May 8th.
Fedor?
Donald Cerrone, Diego Sanchez.
Holy shit.
Wait, what's that again?
Donald Cerrone is going to fight Diego Sanchez in May 8th in the UFC.
Wow. Oh, okay. I was like, I thought this was Bellator again.
No.
I was like, wait, what? They can't do that. That's disrespectful.
No.
All right.
So this is absolutely wild.
Does the winner get Conor again?
I'm waiting to see what happens, but both of these fighters, legendary guys. Diego Sanchez, 39. Cerrone's 36. Both of them have got more mileage in the octagon than I can even count.
I will say that is one cool thing that the UFC does is that, like, when there are guys who are on their way out, they always seem to find a way to create these kind of fun dream matchups. Clay Guida just had one on Saturday against Michael Johnson. So, like, they find a way to put these guys in the octagon with each other. I mean, it might be post when you would want them in the octagon together, but, like, you get it at some point,
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy to see, and Diego said that this is going to be his last UFC fight.
So this is the way to go out.
Yeah, this is a perfect way to go out. Like I said, it's just nostalgia that, like, how have these two not fought before?
Right.
Of all the people in the UFC, Cerrone, who fights everybody, and obviously Hall of Famer top to bottom. I believe he's got the most wins in UFC history.
I think so, yeah.
As well, like finishes, bonuses. Diego's no slouch either. I think he's in the conversation for most fight of the night bonuses in history too. Okay. Like, they have got some stuff going on in their direction.
When was this announced for?
This is announced for May 8th. So,
are they going to headline, or is that going to be?
I gotta say that will probably headline like an ESPN Plus card. Like,
okay.
I don't have any more details than
I could kind of feel like that would be an ESPN card, just straight on. The old ESPN channel, not Plus.
Yeah, it definitely could be
that, because that to me is a kind of card that you want. Like, if you want, UFC average fans to watch and draw and get ratings, like, that's two names that you put in the octagon and say, all right, we're going to put this on the main channel and let's boost, let's get some ratings.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to do it. So I'm just more blown away that we're going to see that fight after how many years? Like, It's just like, wow. You want to talk a trip down memory lane? These two guys leaving it all in the octagon. It could be a double retirement. Who knows?
That'd be something.
That would be absolutely wild to see.
Double finish.
Double knockout.
Don't tempt me with that.
Yeah. It's only
I've
been-
wanted to see it for 10 years.
I'll show you the video of the one time it's happened.
It had, yeah, the one the guy suplexed him.
Shoney Carter. Oh,
Yeah.
no, and then there was another one, what you call it? Yeah, the knockout slam.
Yeah.
I think it was, Matt Wyman and Gray Maynard, if I'm not mistaken. Either way,
A lot of UFC stuff, man. Good
Yeah.
for the UFC.
Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff happening in the right direction.
And it's perfect time because now football's over, so I'm all in. I'm diving head first in the UFC until lacrosse season starts going again.
Well, I know March is the big card coming up, too, which we'll be talking about.
Let's go.
3 title defenses.
Hey.
Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What's your thoughts about the UFC's card this weekend and the fights we were talking about? Who do you think's next for Conor? Who do you think's next for Nate Diaz? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey all, I'm Frank. Join me and my friends as we talk about all things geek. Here at Geek Freaks Podcast, we go over the weekly news of everything in geekdom, from movies to TV, video games, and comic books. We also have a growing YouTube community. Join us as we go over everything in your geek life and share in the love of geekdom.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and time to talk local minutes.
Yeah, so the Binghamton Devils have kicked off their AHL season down in New Jersey. But while you're not able to watch the games in person here in the 607 area, if you are locally, all of their games will be broadcasted on AM 1430 here in Binghamton, so definitely tune in and listen to those games. Their one game they've played this year, they played on Monday against the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Penguins, where the Devils won by the final score of 4-3 in overtime. Looking at their games upcoming, they've got a game this Wednesday, 10 o'clock, against the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, game time 7 o'clock. Saturday, the 13th, they've got a game at 4 p.m. against the Utica Comets. And then next Wednesday, on the 17th, they have a game against the Hershey Bears, game time 7 o'clock. More information, binghamtondevils.com.
Good to see the boys back.
Yeah.
Also, the Binghamton Bulldogs start training camp.
Oh,
All right.
I think either this week or next week. So be on the lookout for that. That's coming right around the corner, too. I mean, obviously, they won't be, allowing fans, unfortunately.
Right.
But, they will be streaming their games, I believe, that they said on their media channels.
Oh, very
Okay.
cool. So some of them to check out. So BinghamtonBulldogs.com for more information on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or their Facebook page where they're extremely more active, in our opinion. So that being said, time to round the bases and take the show home.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to talk some baseball because some rules were announced for the upcoming season for Major League Baseball, and there are some differences from last year. Some of the rules that were announced for this season, doubleheaders will be 2 7-inning games. I'm willing to bet it's not listed in this article from CBSSports.com I'm reading from. I'm willing to bet they'll do it like last year, though. If they're doing a 2 doubleheaders, 7 innings, they'll do it like if you ever go to a minor league game, 30 minutes after the last game ends. Round 2, here we go. Each offense will get a runner on second base to start every extra inning. Saw that last year, worked out fine, in my opinion, no issues there. The active roster limit will revert to 26 and expand to 28 in September, so that's a little different from last year. And then Major League Baseball clubs are permitted to carry up to 5 additional squad players on all road trips, so necessity in case something happens, given the state of the world we're living in. Noticeably absent is there is no universal designated hitter like there was last year.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No universal DH. Also, it sounds like at this point there is no expanded playoff like there was last year, although admittedly last year that didn't happen until the 11:59 minute mark of the season because it was about to start and they agreed to that, so that could change down the line. Also, there are some variety of health and safety rules that were announced Tuesday morning, including mandatory 5-day at-home quarantine prior to reporting to spring training and frequent administration of COVID response tests.
Okay.
10-day isolation period required for individuals who test positive for COVID-19. Quote, individuals who have been identified as having been in close contact with a confirmed case of COVID will be subject to a mandatory quarantine of 7 days and must test negative on day 5 or later, among other requirements to rejoin club facilities. A new league-wide code of conduct prohibiting certain high-risk activities outside the ballpark, such as indoor gatherings of 10 or more, indoor restaurants, bars, lounges, fitness and wellness centers, entertainment venues, gaming venues, i.e. casinos, or any other activity that is prohibited by state or local governments. During the season, individuals during road trips are not permitted to leave the hotel other than for team activities at the team facility or ballpark, other than for medical reasons, outdoor walks / exercise, outdoor dining if approved by the Joint Committee, or for other low-risk outdoor activities or in extraordinary circumstances. Members of the traveling party must notify a club compliance officer before leaving the hotel. Contact tracing program will require Kinexon contact tracing device to be worn at all times while in club facilities during club-directed travel and while engaged in team activities, including group workouts and practices. Face coverings must be properly worn at all times when in club facilities and in the dugout, other than for players on the field during a game or during pregame warm-ups. And lastly, all Major League Baseball clubs will have a compliance officer, contact tracing officer, and face mask enforcement officer. Fines will be issued for non-compliance during games, and the fines will be donated to charity.
Not a bad setup.
No, and I'm real excited. Spring training just around the corner. The Yankees, I know, posted on their social media. The trucks are loaded up and getting ready to head for Tampa. I want to say they report the next couple days. Pitchers and catchers report, I think it's beginning of next week. And then position players are the end of the week, beginning of next week. So super excited, going to be here. They're also, I should say, planning for a full 162-game season.
See, I was hoping they shortened it up. Not because of health reasons.
They talked about it, but it wasn't much. I know the Major League Baseball was pushing for 152, something like that.
Yeah.
But the Players Association was like, nah, let's just do the full season.
Yeah, fair enough. Coach, what you got?
So the in more rules announcement, the PGA Tour golf season is upon us, which is fantastic because
Masters coming up.
Snow will be melting, and I will be able to get my clubs out of my attic. Have announced that on the tour in all majors, they will be allowed to use rangefinders now.
Oh,
they will not be able to use elevation determination stuff and club selection type ones, but they will be allowed to use at least distance finders, which will help speed up the game.
Okay.
Because now instead of the old back and forth with the caddy of flipping out the book and finding the measuring stick and all, and the measuring marker and all that stuff, now they'll be able to just pinpoint the hole and
makes sense.
Make a golf shot.
Makes sense.
Yeah, speeding up the game is obviously the most important thing because television broadcast, that's probably one of the biggest deters of them being able to broadcast games or broadcast events is because they just don't know the speed of play. So they obviously only allow a time slot, which can be difficult because they can go over or, cut under. So hopefully this helps narrow that gap down so they'll be able to be a little more broadcast friendly, as they like to say in the biz.
Well, they got to do something for it. Like I say, I try watching golf and I usually fall asleep.
Yeah, obviously now that I've gotten into it, I can watch it. It's not easy to watch with my kids around, but like when the Masters and stuff are on, I'll dedicate my time to watching those. But the other, minor events like the past week at the Waste Management, I totally spaced that it was even on. But again, it's just a problem with broadcasting. The Premier Lacrosse League kind of talked about the fact that lacrosse isn't a friendly sport because the minutes equal to 2 hours and 15 minutes when you add up broadcasting time.
Right.
And that's difficult for a channel to put on because it's like that extra 15 minutes they can't they can't swing a television show because then it runs everything off course. So that's why they narrowed their game down to a 2-hour broadcast window. And that's part of the problem with golf is that, if they start a broadcast at 11, they give it till 3 o'clock. But if they're not done with the 18th hole or the winner's not announced by 3, it kind of leaves them at what do we do here?
Especially here locally, I know a lot of the golf tournaments end up on CBS on Sundays.
Yeah.
Which for us here locally in the 607, the local news broadcast is CBS and is usually one of the only local news broadcasts running on Sunday at 6 o'clock. But usually what happens is the golf tournament's going on. And it's scheduled to be the local news at 6 o'clock, but it's like, the golf tournament's running over by like an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, makes it difficult on the local media and broadcasting.
Can't get my weather.
Yeah, so, that hopefully the rangefinder helps lower the amount of time of club selection and speeds up the game. So I'm all for it. Good for them.
Whatever they can do to help, I'm down for.
Yeah.
So that being said, let us talk some wrestling.
Wrestling.
Time to run the ropes and give a little recap of the past weekend. And the biggest story for me coming out of Atlanta Pro Wrestling.
It's Nia Jax, right?
Oh, my God. If you have not been following on Twitter.
My hole?
Yo. Absolutely.
I don't know. Charlie Caruso said something even more.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that was.
Don't watch that video with your kids in the room.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
yikes.
Yeah.
I sent that to Al and George, friends of the show, and I was like, guys, yikes.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
she like and?
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
my whole thing, inappropriate, sure, funny, a little bit. The Caruso thing was like,
Yo.
if you know what you're saying, do you know what you're saying?
Yeah, that was a little.
NSFW.
Little
Yeah.
risque.
NSFL.
Yeah, might have been a slip, but still, when it slips and it's caught on tape, it's never.
The internet
No,
is
it's
forever.
Yeah, the internet is unforgiving. But this,
Oh yeah, they are, because it is everywhere.
Yeah, so if you type in a search engine, you can find out what we're talking about. But what I was referring to, though, was at the end of AEW Dynamite last week.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, it's been long rumored of what is going on with Gallows and Anderson and the whole relationship with Impact and AEW. And we've had the Bullet Club show up. In fact, they've mentioned Bullet Club.
Well,
Much to Fale's chagrin.
yeah, time out. Not the Bullet Club. Part of.
They've referred to.
Yeah,
That's
of
what
course
I'm
they
saying.
have.
They've referred to the Bullet Club showing up. So that's where I'm going with that.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure because, I mean, we know in the room
Yeah.
who the actual Bullet Club is.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's us.
And
Yeah.
this is true. But unless Tom Matonga says so, I would not be believing anything. And I will give a plug to his Twitter and his Twitch / shoots he's been doing.
Yeah.
And
Good for him, too, because, I mean, it's bullshit that they're grabbing the name like that.
Right. But what threw some more fuel on that fire is the appearance of one Kenta at the end of the show last week.
Yeah.
Who came out, gave one of the worst go-to-sleeps in recent memory. But I think that's because of John Moxley more than him.
Moxley sold it like Rock did any of Goldberg's spears back in the day.
Oh, yeah. It was quite comical. And now, this coming week, we have Kenta appearing on AEW television.
Okay.
So he'll be tagging up with Kenny Omega to fight John Moxley and Lance Archer.
So that's a pay-per-view matchup right there.
It definitely is a big matchup. And what I was going to ask the gentleman in the room here is,
Okay.
what is your thoughts on this? Is because the internet started running a little wild that there's now the partnership with AEW and
The
New
forbidden
Japan.
door is open.
Well, so my take is obviously Moxley is the IWGP U.S. title champion, and they want him to work a match against Kenta because Kenta's had this damn briefcase for over a year and a half now.
They want him to work a match, but at the same token, they're very quick to pull the trigger on stripping someone of a belt for any reason whatsoever, unlike WWE is in certain instances. So the fact that they haven't done it yet says that they're okay. They understand the current situations.
Right. And they want this, like they want the match.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they want this to happen. So stripping Moxley of the belt does not get the payoff that they want. So, they had to play ball, and I think that the way to play ball was having a Bullet Club member show up on AEW television while they're in the middle of this Bullet Club story. And, it is what it is. I don't think it's going to lead to any sort of like outstanding permanent working relationship. I think that this is just hey, we're in a bind, you're in a bind, let's meet in the middle here and work something out.
Right. I mean, it's definitely cool. It's definitely a dream type scenario. If it leads to, Bullet Club versus Bullet Club, that'll be cool. I mean, I understand Tama Tonga's frustrations with it, and he's entitled.
Absolutely.
He's entitled to that. That's fine. But I would also say, as somebody who's not a super indie mark, someone who doesn't regularly watch, New Japan. I've never watched any New Japan.
Talk to Rich from 3FN. He will hook you up.
I primarily WWE, NXT, a little AEW now and again. I would say this whole thing and bringing it back Bullet Club has made that brand and that name more relevant than it has been in last 4 or 5 years.
Statewide.
State-wise,
Well,
yeah.
Statewide.
They're not as popular as they used to be.
Well, you got to also take in context, too. The Bullet Club has been one of the staples of New Japan Pro Wrestling for many, many years now.
I mean, since Prince did it in, I think, 05 it released?
Something like that. Him,
Yeah.
Fale,
yep.
Tama Tonga. So
Anderson.
Yep. So where it's been now, it got popular stateside with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega doing the whole elite thing.
I would like to now dub them the Old Bucks, by the way, because I didn't realize that they're over 30 years old.
Oh, yeah, well over 30.
Yeah, well over 30.
Yeah.
You ain't young no more.
Exactly.
The old bucks continue.
They really ran with it and obviously took the commercial side of the club.
So and commercialized it.
Yeah, so for them to be bringing it up, and especially if the deal isn't done, I think it's just kind of a bad look. And I think how Tama Tonga's been pointing to is, however this pans out, is going to be really interesting to see what AEW does moving forward. That they said, let's see how this goes first, but the door is not open. This is kind of like a test run to see.
Right.
One thing we've seen with AEW is when they do cross-promotion, it has not exactly been favorable for both parties, in my opinion.
No. What is AEW getting out of Anderson and Gallows showing up on television?
They get Anderson and Gallows on TV, and,
right.
and the internet marks talking.
But what does Impact get?
They get
Kenny
nothing.
Omega. What do you mean? They get Kenny Omega showing up on their show. They get Matt Hardy showing up on their show. They get these dream matchups. I mean, they got Kenny Omega on one of their pay-per-views.
Right, but was there any promotion on AEW for it?
Yeah, they said our champion's going to be on Impact.
But I'm just saying, in comparison, you can flip on Impact each week, and it's all AEW stars. Tony Khan does his infomercial every week. You flip it to AEW, how many times is Impact mentioned other than a quick hot line saying, here's the Impact World Tag Champions?
I guess that's true, too. But, I mean, at the same time, like, the Kenny Omega showing up on Impact means more than Anders and Gallows showing up on...
I will grant you that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, whose brand is it helping more in the sense of, okay, what has Omega done there? He pinned their champion clean.
Right. Well, that in that sense, yeah.
Like that's the way I look at it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, we're staring at it the same way. It's just different angles.
Right. So with how they play this out, and how the first time they did a little cross promotion with AEW and New Japan when Jericho went over for Wrestle Kingdom,
right?
New Japan did a real big to do for him.
Oh
yeah.
And then AEW, I don't believe even mentioned it, if memory serves me right. If I'm
that
wrong,
was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So if I'm wrong, hashtag OD Parlay, OD Parlay on Twitter, and you can let me know. So what I'm saying is, with all of this, is however the cross promotion goes here, it could lead to something if they play their cards right, but they really got to do something big for this. And what I mean is, you can't just have this go off the laurels of like AEW's letting New Japan come here. Well, it has to be fair cross promotion.
You also, this is the thing though, like, is Kenta really showing up on AEW gonna push the needle as far as main card level talent?
No.
Because that's the thing, like, when I read this, because, Uncle Dave was like, oh my God, here he is, it's Kenta. And is he, from his time in NXT, and brief run in WWE, Hideo Itami, did he really cross over any sort of, like, from prospect to elite talent?
No.
He was too injury prone.
He was. And, that sucks, and it kills your run, but, like, to me, it's like, all right, this is cool because you're getting the Bullet Club, but like outside of the marks, that are jonesing over this, which I get why. This is a great you got the picture pulled up on the internet right now. It looks like $1 million because I know who Hideo Itami is, and I know what he's done in New Japan and what he did in prior to New Japan, what he did in NXT, and what he could have done in NXT. So I know that. I know the level of talent. I'm familiar with it. Mm-hmm. But again, like when I think about what my 5-year-old son who casually watches wrestling, if he sees this card, he's going to be like, "Oh, that's Jon Moxley."
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's Dean Ambrose, and that's all he's going to know.
Yeah, no, they're catering right now to the IWC, to the marks that, let's face it, we've said it before, they're going to show up for this program. The AEW is geared towards the internet fans and the marks and what have you. They're the fans that and each company has them. They're the fans that are going to be there for you no matter what. They're the ones who are going to watch. They're going to tune in, even if it's the worst card. And I'm not saying this one, but just in general, if it's the worst card in company history, they'll be there. They'll watch. Mm-hmm. What it doesn't do is it doesn't do things for the folks like like Coach mentioned with his son, or the folks that aren't marks, don't go on the internet wrestling community, that aren't real familiar with it. They're going to see that and go, who? I don't care.
And I'm not going to care personally until Tama Tonga shows up.
Well,
when the Bullet Club comes, I will give a shit because Tama Tonga sells me that this is real.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
And I'm in the same boat too. Don't get me wrong. It's cool that he showed up, and it's awesome that he's going to have a match on AEW. But like for me, I know who he is. I know he GTS and all that. But I haven't kept up with what he's done since he left WWE. So I'm like, I just don't care.
See, for me, because I do watch some New Japan.
Sure.
So I know this is quite a big deal for that because of the storyline they build up.
Right, he's got the briefcase to face him. I mean, I know the background. Like I don't pay attention. I pay attention, but don't religiously follow it.
Right. No,
so I know the nooks and the crannies and all that stuff. But when the real Bullet Club, when the guys that actually
the real ones show up,
fucking formed the thing and actually took it from the ground and brought it up, come on and do that. That's when I'm going to care. I don't care about a guy who just was initiated in the Bullet Club 2 months ago. I know it was longer, but I'm just saying, like, he's been in there for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, that's not Bullet Club to me. Omega, Bucks, Anderson Gallows, like, I know they are, but they left.
Yeah.
And when you leave, you don't get just like, when Shawn Michaels and Triple H, when they broke up DX, it's not like Shawn Michaels went outside and, like, claimed DX, like, he was like, it's not mine anymore, like, and when he came back, they had that feud, like, it just wasn't his anymore, you know what I mean? And when the NWO split up, it wasn't like they were like, it just, I don't know, it pisses me off. Like, it's not yours anymore. Let it go.
Well, that's the whole point about this is...
Finn Balor, when he came to WWE, they were trying to do the Bullet Club and didn't do it because they just don't have it.
It's not theirs.
It's not theirs.
Yeah. This is the whole point about this because for what AEW's been trying to do with this angle, they've been trying to sell the Bullet Club.
Right.
The fact that we have a New Japan superstar coming over is a big deal for those that follow New Japan. Now, how they play this to see if they get anybody else down the road, that's the story.
Sure. And more factions on factions on factions.
Well, right. Which is going to be the fatal flaw of AEW because once you start opening that door and you're trying to claim stuff that isn't homegrown, a la the Bullet Club,
right,
you are really painting yourself into a corner because you really have to deliver something big.
Are you really going to be able to recapture the essence that was like, because I mean, when Prince was there, when Finn Balor was there and the Bullet Club was just starting, it was really in its infancy and was on the cusp of being something cool. And then, when Anderson and Gallows came over, started popping with the Two Sweets, started doing the nostalgia throwback stuff of the Suckets, the Two Sweets, and all that stuff, and then the Bucks came in with that energy. Yeah. That's really when it took the next level. And then when AJ Styles came on, then it really hit its peak.
Yeah, when a different platform there.
Yeah, and then it started to taper off. You brought Cody and you brought Jeff Jarrett and Adam Cole was in there for a cup of coffee. Scroll, and then that's when the decline started happening. And then Jay White became the lead, and then now it's just here. It's just kind of flat and it's peaked. It peaked already. Is it real? Are you going to be able to recapture lightning in the bottle again?
Well, that's what AEW is trying to do, but this is all going to kind of stem on how this all goes over. If they can get more people from New Japan to come over and do the cross-promotion thing, I'm not saying they can, but I'm not going to rule anything out.
Right.
But until you get that core essence in there, the fact that you're just trying to sit there and cause an internet stir by yelling Bullet Club all the time, it's not really working.
Because the other thing too is, let's think back to, I forget, that was WrestleMania 33 when it was in Orlando, where the CEO of Hot Topic was walking around, saw all the goddamn Bullet Club T-shirts, and went to WWE and went, "Hey, we want to get these in our store. These look like they'll sell a lot." And WWE went, "These aren't ours. Here's who they are."
Right.
And think back to WWE television, where you could not cut to a camera in an arena on a WWE program, be it NXT, SmackDown, Raw, or a pay-per-view, without seeing a Bullet Club T-shirt of some variety, be it the Bucks, be it Kenny, be it Cody, whoever. You could not go a show without seeing a Bullet Club T-shirt. Now, I realize different times, different measures, but it tapered off over the years. I think when we come to WrestleMania, you won't see as many Bullet Club shirts as you used to.
I think if it was an international audience, you would.
Yeah.
But I think with obviously what's going on in the world right now, no. But this is where it's all going to come back onto what AEW does here. This is a step in the right direction if they really want to go cross-promotion. but there has to be a big payout at the end. And I'm saying that the relationship is there? No, absolutely not. It's baby steps, if anything. And I'm not even saying I doubt WWE swooping in to say, New Japan, let's talk some business. Because how crazy would that sound for even for one night, you have the real Bullet Club show up on NXT?
Get a Kota Ibushi versus Shinsuke versus AJ versus D.
Good for AEW trying to rehash the Bullet Club stuff. I don't see it. It's you got your own homegrown stuff. Keep with that core and keep trying to do that, and not try to go outside the box. And I don't care. It's just. I know I've been real anti AEW and hard on them, but
you're allowed to.
Honestly, it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Kenta's cool, but I don't care.
We'll have to see how it all pans out on Wednesday night. So that'll be starting on AEW Dynamite on TNT, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you watch your wrestling. Before we get into the outros, gentlemen, do you want to let the people know where they can find you on Twitter?
I am A with a circle around it, Coach Duffy 11.
That's good. I'm not going to be able to top that. I am at Meselyn. That's MESELYN.
So that being said, the music you heard on this edition of the ODPH podcast is that of Brian Wolf. Now, he's our buddy down in Texas. He's doing a lot of stuff on his Patreon. He's doing free concerts on Wednesday night on his Facebook. Pad, where do we find out what he's doing?
OchoDuroParlayHour.com.
That's right. So you swing on over to the music section. You check out what's going on with him. Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, Floodlands, and all the great bands you hear on the show. Shout out to the Robots, too, doing big things, too. I got to put that out there as well. You can also swing on over to the directory. Check out Friends of the Show, Organizational Link Support, and Black Lives Matter. All the amazing pod groups we're in via their Podchaser page. Because, Coach, do you know what my rule is for that?
If you're a podcast and you're not on a Podchaser group, are you even a podcast?
Close enough. I'll take it as a win. If you're in a pod group and you're not on Podchaser, you're not in a pod group. But just give a shout out to Pod Nation. Coach, I'm giving you the A for effort on that one, man.
I've been so close. I said that last week, too.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Shout out to Pod Nation. Shout out to Legion Independent Podcast. Shout out to the aPODalypse. Shout out to Alternate Reality Radio. Shout out to 607 Podcast. And, of course, shout out to our friends over at 8122 Productions. Rich, Ron, Mike C, and hashtag Big Nay Cool talking egregious on this week's 3FN. Got to put it out there. A lot of anti-Bills Mafia stuff. In fact, he has a bet he threw out. Who would get to the Super Bowl first? And he has money behind this. The Bills or the Lions or Browns?
Who do you put money on?
The Lions or Browns?
Hey.
That's nuts. That's not even...
Yeah. So if you want to find out more about that, definitely tune into the latest episode of 3FN, the flagship show, and find out everything that's going on with Diesel and guys behind a paywall, because, frankly, we can't really talk about everything that happens on that organization. Patreon.com/812 Productions. $1 gets you in the door, $3 gets you a comfy seat at the table. All of that. Links to hashtag 607TWS, the wrestling show, twitch.tv/607 podcast, the TeePublic store, and so much more can all be found at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. That's all I got for this week. So for your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
There was a flag on the play for the show. Ken, unfortunately, you had too many gaffes, and now we have to bring back 15 yards. First down.
For the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you for always listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.